Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Y'all, I'm Musical Finesse. Most of you know who I am at this point. And I have my mod, Cindy, on voice chat with me.
Hi.
Hello. How we doing, y'all? Kai, congrats on first. Glad to see you ready to go. Hello's low. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying Dragon Age 2. Darkness Queen.
Darkness Queen 31 just resubscribed for 32 months. 32-month wow.
32-month wow. Thank you for 32 months. Appreciate you. How's everybody doing? Sorry, y'all. I'm just getting distracted a little bit, but it's fine. Just dealt with Orsino. Nice. Very nice. Game crash mid-battle. No.
That's unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. Y'all, thank you for being here so early for our very first lore stream. Please let us know if voice levels are weird between me and Cindy. If music is audible, music is low on purpose because the focus is the lore. But
Yeah, feel free to be mean to me. I promise. I won't be mad. Oh wait, I gotta.
just got back from a wedding. Exciting.
Dude, I got some banana bread at work today, dude. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I have wonderful news. What's your wonderful news? Fill me in. So as you know, what I went through the past year or so. Papers came in. Yes. Congrats on being single again. Congrats. That's a huge accomplishment. So proud of you. Because I know that feeling. All right. So before we jump into lore things, because we will very soon. Just kind of wanted to give y'all a little overview of what these are gonna look like. Cindy and I have worked very hard.
We totally didn't procrastinate a whole lot.
Not at all. We're totally finished with the rest of them already.
This was all totally finished 3 weeks ago. It was.
We didn't cram till 2 a.m. last night. Not at all. We've got lots of lore to talk through with y'all. Got lots of images. We got visuals for you. It's gonna be exciting.
We're fancy.
Very fancy. And I'm also I decided last minute I want to play the trailers for each game before we dive into each lore recap. So I actually do have a trailer for Origins we're gonna watch together before we get into it. Couple disclaimers though. There is a chance we miss stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And that is because there is an indescribable amount of lore in Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to just be like, let's put stuff that we think is important, it might be different stuff that you think is important, or we just missed stuff.
Yeah. I had a thought of oh no, what if we missed an entire companion? I had that thought.
And then we did, because I missed an entire companion doing one.
That's true. We did last night. We realized it before today, but still.
So if you know something we don't and we skip over it, feel free to politely let us know, hey, this also happens.
Or you don't have to be polite about it. You can just yell at me in chat. That's fine too. Whatever floats your boat.
Whatever boat you float.
Yeah. Well, who's ready for some lore? I know I am.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. But nervous too, because this is such a different thing for me from what I normally do on stream. I am actually gonna bump the music back up a little bit. Yeah. I normally don't do things like this that are planned. Kai, I'm so glad that you're ready. So we're going to pull up a trailer first. So let me get this pulled up. Full screen. All right. Let me make sure the audio is going to come through too for the trailer. Girl said you heard it first here. Purple person gave us a full promise to yell at her. Yep. Go ahead, I guess. All right, y'all. Here we go. Dragon Age Origins trailer. This is the story trailer specifically. If I can get it to display. There we go. Okay, enjoy.
The chantry teaches us the mages had sought to usurp heaven. But instead, they destroyed it. They were cast out, twisted and cursed by their own corruption. They returned as monsters, the first of the Darkspawn. They became a blight upon the lands, unstoppable and relentless. Humanity stood on the verge of annihilation until the Grey Wardens came. It has been 4 centuries since that victory. I have seen with my own eyes what lies on the horizon.
Part of being a Grey Warden is being able to hear the Darkspawn. That's why we know this is really a blight. We feel it just as they do.
This threat is greater than they realize.
The Darkspawn horde grows larger with each passing day. We are few now, and our warnings have been ignored for too long.
No Grey Warden has ever defeated a blight without the army of a half-dozen nations at his back.
You must gather allies. Unite shattered lands.
Dwarves, elves, mages. This sounds like an army to me.
And end the blight before it consumes us all.
This moment forth, you are a Grey Warden.
I was not prepared for the electric guitar. Oh my gosh. I was not prepared for that little bit of electric guitar at the end of the trailer, but that was great. Anyways, let's get some music back on. So, y'all, that is the story trailer for Dragon Age Origins. We're going to dive into the lore of that game here in just a second. I just couldn't help but notice the way Alistair talks about being a Grey Warden as if he's got like years of experience when he was a fresh new recruit too, which is just really amusing to me.
Also, I noticed the warden they made for that trailer specifically looked like just an edgy Alistair. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. Well, let me switch our scene over here.
Fancy new scenes.
Yeah, look at this. I'm quite proud of this. So, yeah, we're gonna dive in. So Dragon Age Origins, the first game.
Our best.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best. Dragon Age Origins, the first game in the series from BioWare. We're just gonna start off with probably our favorite fun fact about Dragon Age, and that is the fact that Thetis, the world that Dragon Age is set in, sounds like a fantasy name, but it literally means the Dragon Age setting. THEDAS.
Yeah,
And I
they
just
thought
love
they were
that.
real clever. I thought they were real funny.
Favorite fact about Dragon Age is that Sandal exists? Yes. We will get to Sandal. Don't you worry.
Yeah, everyone loves Sandal.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a picture of the map of Thedas. Dragon Age Origins takes place, though, solely in Ferelden. So this little portion of the map down here at the bottom. And yeah, other games branch out, but we're just starting here in Ferelden.
Yeah.
So before the events of Dragon Age Origins, there's a lot of history to the world. Each century or 100 years in the game has a different name, and they're all considered ages. And each age is named by the divine based on an omen of some sort. And Dragon Age, the current age, is named the Dragon Age because of the return of the dragons. Dragons were thought to be extinct prior to the Dragon Age, and then they returned, and hence Dragon Age. And to those of you from Becca's stream, yes, there are dragons in Dragon Age. I promise you.
Just not as many as you think in the first game.
No. There's like, what, 2, 3 in the first game? That's it?
Yeah.
3. Yeah, because there's the Archdemon, there's the one, the Temple of Sacred Ashes, and then Flemeth. But we'll get to those.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Kai. Enjoy your sherbet. Hi, Chantel. Welcome. All right. So, starting with the Chantry. The Chantry, or the church, in Dragon Age, in Thedas, came about because of Andraste, the bride of the Maker, her martyrdom. She was just kind of a prophet. She was martyred for leading armies against, I believe it was specifically slavery and things of that sort. Claimed that she spoke on behalf of the Maker. A lot of people didn't believe her. Her own husband was one of the people that sentenced her to death and killed her. And eventually, the Chantry split off into two sects or factions. Words are hard. We have the Orlesian Chantry and the Imperial Chantry. Imperial Chantry is really just Tevinter, and the Orlesian Chantry is every other nation that follows the chant. The Maker is considered the god, and Andraste, again, is the bride of the Maker. If you wanted to make a connection to real world religion, you could say the Maker is like Christianity's god, and Andraste is like Christianity's Jesus, maybe loosely. Cindy, I want to pass it off to you for the Blight.
Yeah, so the Blight, the big bad of the first game, you learn about it pretty early. It's all kinds of darkspawn, not so fun stuff, lots of death, murder, very dark stuff. But the Blight, in and of itself, started ages before the original game, and a lot of it can be boiled down to there was a big, nice, pretty city. It was in an area of just magic. No one was able to get to it. But eventually, some humans were like, I really want to go there. It seems like a nice place to go on vacation. So they decide we're gonna try to reach it. And it's a lot of it is, even in the games, it's speculated. Like, we don't know if this is what happens or if this is you find this in just a lot of like holy text and religious text and this and that. But essentially, they found the big, nice, pretty golden city, and they're like, we want to go inside. And then they touched it. The city didn't like that, so it cursed all of the humans that were there. and then they became supposedly the first darkspawn, this and that, and then that's how
Yep.
the blight started happening, because the blight is just when an old god is found and corrupted by the darkspawn, and so the only way to combat them is also how the wardens came out, which is just a whole new thing where just like darkspawn are just, they're poisonous as in every shape, way, form. They're poison on the land, their blood is poison, if they're it's just everything. And the wardens, the ritual to become mostly immune to the poison, so they become effective fighters against it. And so like every so often a new old god is found, and then it leads all the darkspawn into a big war, and the wardens and then the nations have to get together and fight them back. Usually we win, and then it's just
historically
kind of
they've won every time.
Yeah, it's just always just a big cycle. Like, oh, we won this time, but it's only a matter of time till they find a new leader, and then we have to go through this whole song and dance over again.
Yep. There are a total of 7 old gods, I believe, theorized. Am I remembering that correctly?
That sounds about right.
So there have been, including Dragon Age Origins, there have been 5 blights. So theoretically, 2 more old gods to awaken, 2 more blights, and then no more blights ever again. Hopefully, who knows? So a couple other things that happen before the events of this game are covered in 2 of the novels. There are a bunch of novels related to Dragon Age, but one of them, The Stolen Throne, is set when the prior king of Ferelden, where the game is set, is just a young child, maybe like teenager. There's a war going on between Orlais and Ferelden, and excuse me, I misspoke. The former king was not even born yet. This was his father, Merrick. He was still the prince. Orlais had already taken over and kills his mother. Merrick and Loghain meet. Loghain we meet later again in Origins. And throughout the book, they're just trying to take back Ferelden from Orlais. They are assisted by a witch of the wilds. And, you know, Loghain, Merrick, they become BFFs. They have a falling out over a girl because why not?
Women.
Yep. And that ultimately is part of the reason why Loghain does some things that he does in Origins. We'll get to that though. And then shortly after this, Merrick becomes king. And while he's reigning, some wardens come to him in the Calling for assistance because they need to go to the Deep Roads, to a specific location in the Deep Roads where Merrick had gone during the war with Orlais. And this is where we also meet Fiona and Duncan, 2 characters that are introduced. Duncan in Origins, Fiona later on in Inquisition. But with that, we're going to actually get into the game itself now, starting with a DLC, Leliana's song. Cindy, I'll pass it back over to you if you don't mind. Just a quick overview of it if you want. Or we can get into it when we get into Leliana some more too.
Yeah, I also think you just have more experience in Leliana's song than
That's
I do.
fine. Well, and regardless, we'll get more into Leliana's song when we talk about Leliana. But basically, this is the one prequel DLC in the game. So, and Zlo is that counting the 2 active gods we know of or in addition to. I don't know for certain because there's never a clear delineation of whether the old gods are the same as the Evanuris. There's theories that they are one and the same, but it's not confirmed that I know of. So there are lots of theories about that though, and I wouldn't be surprised if those theories are correct. So, but there are 2 more archdemons that we're looking for and supposedly we're getting at least one, if not two, archdemons in Veilguard. So, yeah, no, it confuses me too. I think it confuses a lot of the fandom.
It could very much be that there were just all kinds of guides, and then it's just, or just an old like retcon thing, because Dragon Age does that a
Yeah.
few times. It's seven. It's, you know, it is 7, but then like it's subject to change, or like unique things could happen to change it around.
Mm-hmm.
We
Especially
don't know what they're
'cause,
gonna do in Belgard.
Yeah, and you look at what everyone assumes is an archdemon in Inquisition,
Mm-hmm.
and there's question of whether it really is or not because of the connection to Corypheus, and that stuff we'll get to when we get to Inquisition. But there's a lot of wiggle room. So, well, let's get into the start of the game itself. So, this I'll pass to you if you don't mind, Cindy. Just kind of the world state, people, politics, and religions of Thedas.
Yes. So, as we mentioned before, the Chantry is just, it's the most popular, like, kind of world religion you see a lot. And that is separated into a handful of major categories. There are other smaller categories we could be not mentioning, but these are the ones you're going to see the most. And I'll just start from the beginning. We have Templars. They're essentially the warrior group of the Chantry. Their main thing is to protect people from like magic in and of itself, because mages in Dragon Age setting are, for lack of a better term, a bit of a ticking time bomb, but like they can't help that.
Yeah.
And that's their main job, is to kind of keep peace within and kind of harbor peace between the mages and everyone else. Whether they do that successfully varies depending on where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the thing they're protecting people with, the Circle of Magi. Not every mage is a part of the Circle of Magi, but the Circle of Magi is entirely made up of mages, and they are just a organized fashion of trying to train and keep mages safe by just kind of stuffing them in a tower. And then there's a whole bunch of unique fun stuff that happens within the tower, but their main job is to try to get mages and train them to a point where they're not passively dangerous to those around them.
Yeah.
And then the Seekers, they're like super Templars, essentially. They kind of watch, they're above both the Circle of Magi and Templars, but they aren't like they're not like the Templars where they're just kind of like soldiers, essentially, with some sort of hierarchy.
Right.
The lowest ranking Seeker is above the highest ranking Templar. And so they are kind of the Divine's like elite force, you could call them.
Definitely.
And they're pretty unique, because with the Templars, I say that they fight against magic, and that's just because they consume lyrium, which is this game's version of like magic potions.
Yeah.
They consume lyrium to gain abilities to then fight mages more effectively, as to where Seekers go through trials and tribulations to then unlock like latent versions like inside of them to help fight against magic. Like one we'll find out later can set a mage's blood on fire if they really, really wanted to.
Which is just wild to me.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you have the actual core of the Chantry, and at the very, very top, you have the Divine. They're closest to the Pope. And, you know, Musical loves this. All Divine are women. Divine have only been women as far as we know, and that's just the normal. It's not like a big decision thing. It's just normal for the Divine to be a woman.
Yeah. Within the Orlesian Chantry, all authority figures are women. That's different in the Imperial Chantry. It's the opposite, but that's more one of the reasons they split. I think think that covers it though for the Chantry. So we'll move on to the Cune. There's not much to say about the Cune because not a ton is known about the Cune. They're primarily made up of the Cunari, a race, but also a religion. And everybody has their place in society. They all have their roles. You don't do anything but your role. They're constantly trying to bring peace and order to other nations, but that often means invading, and you convert or you die, kind of thing, which is lovely.
They're very radical about
Yes.
their religion and way of life. They don't like change a whole lot. You have your job, you do your job. If you don't do your job, they might beat you until you decide to do your job.
Yeah. Also, hey Red 7, so sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. Hello, welcome in. Yeah, and then we've got our apostates. I just love this image.
Yeah.
This was a I made a note that this was a to be determined image, and we put Anders in as a placeholder. Anders is a great placeholder, honestly.
Yeah. Anders is the apostate.
Yeah. Apostates are just mages that are not part of the circle, plain and simple. So, then I'm bringing us back to our map of Thedas, just to kind of give a brief overview of each nation. We're sticking with Ferelden for this first game in Origins, but Ferelden overall is an Andrastian nation, so they follow the chant. They're part of the Orlesian Chantry. They are ruled by a monarchy, so they have a king and or queen. According to other nations, they are considered the savage dogs of Thedas, specifically referred to that by Orlais. Then we have Orlais over here to the west. They're also Andrastian. They're the home of the Orlesian Chantry. Their government is an empire, so they have an emperor or empress ruling. They're very French. They have what we consider a French accent. They're also just very French in personality too.
Very, very, very much so.
Yeah, and sociopolitically, the game is a big part of the ruling and noble class. How would you describe the game? I'm trying to think of a way to describe it.
The game usually consists of constantly trying to one up the person next to you, but doing it in a way that doesn't seem dishonorable in a way. They're all about trying to gather as much power, political power, for themselves without explicitly just blowing something up or
it's very much like surface level meaning versus underlying meaning kind of thing.
It's a big thing in Orlais. They all the politicians and nobles are really big into the game. It gets a little extreme at times, as we find out with certain factions, but it's just a lot of, I want to seem better than you, but I don't want to just fight you.
Then we have Orzammar. Orzammar is located here in the Frostback Mountains. They're underground, so this is where the dwarves live. And Orzammar, rather than being a nation, is actually just a city. The Dwarven Nation used to be underground, spread out across all of Thedas. It's really just Orzammar now, that we know of. But they live in a city underground. The politics of Orzammar we'll kind of get into in a little bit, but they have a caste system, and they do have a monarch ruling. Then we have Navarra up here. They're all about necromancy, and that's really all we know about Navarra. There is usually a monarch, king or queen ruling. But yeah, necromancy is the big thing we know about them. Then we have the Tevinter Imperium north of Navarra, and they are a mageocracy. So everything is all about the mages. Their Imperium, the Imperium has, like I said before, the Imperial Chantry. They have what's called the Black Divine, because it is literally a polar opposite of Orlais, and that they have a man as the divine. He's a mage. It's still Andrastian, but it's different. Couple other places of note. We have Antiva, we have Ravane, Saharon, Arvalin, and the Free Marches. And the Enderfell's up here. One nation you won't see is not really a nation, it's more of nomadic elven clans, are the Dalish. They're often found in forested or like plains areas. Oh, and I totally forgot, but a note about the Free Marches. The cities in the Free Marches, there's not one nation, it's all independent city-states. But yeah, so I guess we're going to get into the actual game itself now. Origins is titled Origins because you get to play as different origin characters with different backgrounds. So we're going to kind of walk through what each origin looks like, starting with the human noble, considered the canon or default origin. I'm going to pass this to you, though, Cindy. Oh, do we have a Cindy?
Hello? Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I forgot I was muted for a moment there.
You're good. You're good.
So, for future reference, if we just like say this happens, it can be assumed we're talking about it from the human noble point of view, because
Yeah.
there are some bits of lore the further you get into the game that change based on what origin you're playing, and so for convenience sake, unless like stated otherwise, it's from the point of human noble because that's the most popular. That's what you see in a lot of the trailers. But yeah, to hop into it, start origins. You choose your race, and then you choose your starting origin. And for humans, human noble is as it seems, you're a noble. You're part of the Kuzlins, which are a fairly powerful royal family within like the Ferelden hierarchy. They're pretty high up there.
Mm-hmm.
You are the youngest child to the Terran of Highever, Race Kuzlin, which is he kind of watches over Highever. You're a prince, but like not in a sense,
Yeah.
since that's all yada yada yada. But the beginning of the noble origin is your family. They're getting ready to go help the king with a supplementary force against the Darkspawn, the Blight, with the assistance of the Wardens. And you are tasked to just like quite literally hold down the fort while we're gone.
Yeah.
Make sure stuff doesn't crumble around you. And that's how the beginning of the origin goes. You run around, you meet a nice little doggy, you get some stuff about your mom, you can flirt with someone, very basic stuff. But then as the day goes on and you go to sleep, that's when everything goes not so well.
Yeah.
The player character wakes up to a servant, busting into the room. They're like, hey, something's happening, yada yada yada. They get killed, and you're like, oh, this is not good. So you have to end up meeting with your mother. Yes, you have to
That sounds
try to
right.
find your mom. Yes, because your father and your brother are both gone trying to help. And so you have to find your mother. You have to fight through like your own castle because there's a group of people fighting them. They don't know who they are. And then as you as you fight through, you eventually find out that your father was supposed to go with a group of another noble family, but they weren't there, so they left anyways. And so the other noble family, I can't think of them.
Um.
The
Okay.
House,
Yeah.
the Howe force decided to betray the Kuzlins and attack their castle while a large majority of the troops were gone. You don't know why they did that, but as you're doing it, you're trying to make your way through all these soldiers. You eventually do end up finding your father, but he's super injured.
Yeah.
And that's where you also meet up with Duncan. You're going to be hearing a lot of Duncan here throughout these origin things. He's in all of the origins. He's the only recurring character. You meet up with him, and he's like, "We have to get out," you know. But your mom is like, "I don't want to leave my husband. He's here." Is it his husband or is it his brother? Her brother? I'm tripping.
I don't know. We don't have that written down, and I've not played the Human Noble Origin.
I think it's their husband. It's also been a long time since we ourselves have played Origin, so like
Yeah.
Origins, take it with a grain of salt. But
Yeah.
you know, Duncan wants to escape. Your character wants to escape, but your mom doesn't want to leave her husband, and so they decide they're going to stay behind and cover you while you exit through like a servant exit type deal. And then a lot of that boils down to Duncan almost forcing you to be a Grey Warden recruit, which just means he's going to conscript you and then later try to make you into a Grey Warden. And then
Yeah.
that a lot of these origins are going to end the same way. Duncan wanting to make you into a Grey Warden.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think that sums up the Human Noble pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the human/elf mage. So, regardless whether you play a human or an elf, if you're a mage, this is your origin. I feel like we can maybe tag team this a little bit. I've never played the mage origin, but I feel like I kind of know some of it. So, I mean, just basic things to start off. Dwarves can't be mages because they just don't have a connection to the Fade, which is where mages draw their magic from.
Yeah, it's like the spirit realm of sorts.
Yeah, exactly. And while we don't get a huge understanding of how all of that works, and the fact that the Fade is a separate kind of realm or dimension, we don't get a lot of information about that in Origins. We do get that later on. Don't you worry. So does the clarify for me? Does the mage origin start with the harrowing?
No, at least not explicitly. It starts with you running around with some of your friends and then finding out some stuff. But the harrowing is where harrowing happens pretty quickly, but it's not the first thing that happens.
Okay. Hi Gilded Mongoose, welcome on in. So the harrowing, just in general, is a test all circle mages go through, regardless of what circle you belong to, where the mage enters the Fade and has to defend themselves from a demon. If they fail, there are Templars standing there with their swords drawn, ready to kill the mage if possession takes place. So it's kind of a scary thing. But if a mage passes, then they're A-okay. They're good.
Yeah. And failure can even mean they're taking longer than we're comfortable with. And so there are a handful of mages who are killed before they even technically fail their harrowing because they took too long.
Yep. Which is really sad. And that gets into the systemic prejudice towards mages in the world of Thedas. Outside of Tevinter, at least.
Yeah.
Within the Orlesian Chantry.
Yeah.
So the mage origin character. Hi Pyro, welcome on in. The mage origin character does pass their harrowing, thank goodness. Otherwise there wouldn't be a game. And they meet Duncan who is recruiting mages to fight with the wardens against the blight. And this is where things I don't really know at all. So Cindy, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay, so yes, after your character takes the harrowing, and they meet up with Duncan, and at this point in time, Duncan doesn't explicitly state he wants to recruit you. It is just said that, oh, I'm just looking for mages in general.
Yeah.
And in the mage origin, whether you're human or elf, you have two friends with you inside this tower, Jowan and Lily. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jowan and Lily, and you find out that Jowan is scheduled to become a tranquil because they think he may or may not be using blood magic, but blood magic is a very outlawed form of magic in most places, and just Thetis. It's what you think it is. It's using blood to do magic, and it's very dangerous and typically leads to possession in some sort.
Yep.
But Jowan is supposed to become tranquil, and tranquil in this is essentially a lobotomy.
Magical lobotomy.
All mages have a connection to the Fade, and what tranquil does is they rip that connection out, and so that then also makes the person that it was connected to just like essentially a zombie. They have no free will.
No emotion.
But they see it as safe because since you no longer have a connection to the Fade or the spirits, you are now immune to all forms of possession. Because that's what makes mages quote unquote dangerous, is because since they have a connection to the Fade is where spirits and demons dwell, and they all want a physical. They need a physical medium to be in the real world, which 99% of the time is in the form of just taking control of a mage because they have that natural connection.
Right. And to clarify too, tranquility, there's not a lot of science behind it. It's not proven that you can't be possessed or become an abomination when you're tranquil.
It's
just never happened once you're tranquil. So
because there have been a handful of times where someone who wasn't a mage was like possessed by a demon, but them making them tranquil is their way of like, this removes 99% of the problem.
Yeah. And Cindy, you may not know this, but there is, in one of the novels that we'll deal with later on, probably during the Inquisition lore recap, there is a mage who was made tranquil who does become possessed. But it's a very rare case, and it's discussed for reasons with the Seekers. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But it's like not heard of. It's never happened up to this point.
Yeah, it's a freak accident, if you will. They just they don't know why it happened.
Yeah.
But after Joan says that they might make him tranquil, he starts to kind of freak out. He's like, he doesn't want to be made tranquil, yada yada yada. So he comes up with a plan to then, he's like, I want to go get my phylactery. And what a phylactery is just a little bottle of every mage's blood that makes it into the tower, and all it is used for is if that mage escapes, the Templars then use that blood and they can track them pretty much wherever they go.
Yeah.
So
which
Jowan
just feels like such an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, Jowan wants to get his phylactery so he can then escape, and so they can't track him.
Yeah.
And he comes up with this brilliant plan where he ropes, your character and Lily into it. You have to kind of like fight through a little bit of the underground bits. Well, like not really underground, just some of the less traveled parts of the tower. You have to solve a puzzle or two, but Jowan does eventually get his hand on his phylactery, and then kind of destroys it on the spot. But as they're trying to then get out of the room, they are then encountered by a bunch of the mages, some Templars, and even Duncan, and they're like, we can't have you doing that. You destroyed your own phylactery. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get rid of all three of you. And then Duncan, being Duncan, just like, well, wait, I want that one, and like, recruits
Which
you
is
to the
so
Grey Wardens.
wild that Duncan couldn't take all of them when he was looking for mages to begin with.
Yes. And some people try to argue like, oh, we can't take like a blood mage. The wardens have taken significantly worse people for less reason.
And the warden joining ritual is arguably blood magic.
Yes, but they recruit you into the Grey Wardens, and then the other two are punished, or I think there's like one or two like other ways you can end that quest line.
Mm-hmm.
But Joan and Lily are not recruited to the Grey Wardens with you, and you just kind of just leave the tower immediately.
Okay.
Because you were pulled out of trouble, and they're like, we don't want you here. Shoot.
Which, understandable at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that is the mage, human, and elf origin. Also, welcome on in, A-Poppets. Hope you're doing well. So moving on to the city elf. The elven origins are the ones that I have the most experience with. They're kind of crazy. Both of them are kind of traumatic in a lot of ways. But especially the city elf. So before we get any further into this, I do want to put out a trigger warning regarding SA. If it's something you're not comfortable with, maybe step away for like 5-ish minutes, come on back. Because it is a big part of the storyline in the city elf origin. So city elf origin, you are playing as an elf, either male or female, and it's your wedding day. For you and your cousin. Both you and your cousin are getting married, not to each other, to other elves. I feel like I should clarify that, because I feel like when you like read about it, it's not clear, unless you're actually in it playing it. And your wedding is taking place in the alienage in Denerim. Alienages are essentially the slums in most Thedosian cities where elves are living in poverty. Not nice places, and depending on who you ask, some people will say it's better, some people will say it's worse than slavery. So, but on your wedding day, a local lord named Vaughn comes with some of his buddies, and they decide they want to just be rude and mean to some of the women in the alienage, kind of abusive. Your character and your cousin Shiani knock Vaughn unconscious. Which, yay, you did it. You saved yourself and other women in the alienage. But he's noble, so consequences will happen. Duncan, though, arrives in the alienage saying he's looking for some warden recruits, and also lets you know that he knew your mother years ago when trying to recruit her. The wedding ceremony starts, but interrupted by Vaughn, the one you knocked out before. He brings armed guards and abducts all of the women that were involved in that little situation earlier. Things differ a little bit depending on whether you play a female or male elf. If you're playing as a female elf, you are abducted with the other women and you have to fight your way out of Vaughn's estate. If you are playing as a male elf, you go on a rescue mission with your cousin Saurus to rescue the women and then fight your way out. Eventually, when everyone meets up, all the men and women, all the elves that were abducted, you find Vaughn and his friends with your cousin Shiani, who has been essayed by these men. Really terrible. And your character can either be bribed to leave the women with him, which is awful. I don't know anyone who would do that, or fight and kill Vaughn. Always fight and kill Vaughn, in my opinion. After all of that, the city guards in Denerim come to arrest the PC, your character, regardless of what happened. But Duncan decides to invoke the rights of conscription, which basically says, hey, you can't take this person in for criminal charges. They're part of the Wardens now. So yeah, we automatically get saved from being arrested by Duncan. And that's how the City Elf origin ends. Dalish elves, personally, I love the Dalish elves. Also, I realized I didn't switch the image. This is the image for the City Elf origin. Dalish elves, you are part of the Mahariel family, in the Sabre clan. You and Tamlin, another elf, are in a hunting group, hunting for humans who came too close to the clan. Every Dalish clan is different. Some could care less about the humans. Others are like, no, we don't like humans. Don't come near us. If you come near, we're gonna kill you. And that's what your character and Tamlin are trying to do. In the process of hunting for some humans, you stumble across a cave with some ancient elven relics, and you see a giant strange mirror with images of an underground city. Unfortunately, Tamlin touches it. And this kind of blackness spreads across the mirror, and something inside the mirror notices his presence. A flare of light knocks you and Tamlin unconscious, and you wake up a couple days later, recovering from a fever, rescued by Duncan. What do you know? Duncan just happened to stumble across you. Keeper Marathari, the leader of the clan, uses some magic to help you recover, and then sends you, along with Meryl, we'll hear about her on Thursday during Dragon Age 2, and Fenriril, to go find Tamlin, because he was not found when Duncan came to rescue. And Meryl, was sent. She's a mage as well. She can heal, but you run across some darkspawn, and you find Duncan again. And Duncan decides to just shatter the mirror because he realizes that this mirror is tainted with the darkspawn blight taint. And that likely means that Tamlin is now dead from the darkspawn taint. Upon returning to the Dalish camp, Duncan then says, hey, you're also affected by the taint. The only way you're going to survive is if you join the Wardens. And so you do. And that is both of the Elven origins, City Elf and Dalish Elf. And we're moving on to the Dwarves. I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay, so yeah, the dwarves. I like the dwarves. The dwarves are one of my favorite races in Dragon Age. They start with a Tale of Orzammar, which I personally have zero experience in because I never played the version of the game that had a Tale of Orzammar. So,
and it is, to be clear, it's a DLC that is only available in the GOG version of Origins.
Yeah,
so I don't think it's available at all anymore.
I'm just gonna lift this off the way that we have it listed. It may sound a little off, but I have no experience in it. So, Tale of Orzammar is the prologue to the dwarf noble origin, which sounds pretty. You're just a dwarf, but you're also a noble. But in the Tale of Orzammar, you are not. You don't have to be a dwarf. You're just someone coming into Orzammar, which is the main dwarven city in Ferelden. You're hired by nobles to find an artifact in the Deep Roads, and then a little explanation of the Deep Roads. The Deep Roads are just underground tunnels dug by dwarves and whatnot many ages ago. Most of them are just unexplored, quote unquote. That's just because they're too dangerous, because that's where the Darkspawn like to be. All the Darkspawn, if it's not a blight, are underground. And the Deep Roads are nice, free, empty spaces for them to just inhabit and vibe and just be. You're asked to find an artifact. You find the artifact, but then Prince Balin, which is your sibling if you play the Dwarf Noble, comes out and attacks you. You can choose to be peaceful But if you refuse, you are then stabbed in the back by one of your companions, and you're dead. And that's the end of the Tale of Orzammar. It essentially sets up that Prince Balin is kind of scummy.
Yep. Just setting the
He
stage.
he does what he wants.
Yeah.
But then the actual Dwarf Noble storyline, the origin, is you are the second child to the king of Orzammar, and your house is called Iduken, which, every dwarf typically belongs to a house, especially the noble ones, they all have a house. You become a commander, and as a reward, you can either watch or join what they call the Proving, which is just a big, fancy tournament they have. It's a tournament, but they call it the Proving.
Yeah, little fighting arena, Coliseum.
Yeah. You and your best friend Gorham, and then if you play as a female dwarf noble, you can end up romancing him through the dwarf noble origin. As you're wandering around with your best friend, doing all kinds of stuff, you're asked by your oldest brother and the one who's supposed to become king, Trian. They ask you to go to the throne room. Once you get there, your youngest brother, Balin, is just like, hey, I think Trian is trying to kill you, mostly because Trian thinks that all the other dwarf nobles and lords are going to put you on the throne instead of him. But then as you're on your way to talk to him about it, be like, hey, that's not cool, you are then asked to find a shield of Iduken, which is like an old relic of the Iduken family, and they really want you to go find it in the deep roads. After you explore a little bit of the deep roads and you get a feeling of what they are, you are ambushed by a bunch of mercenaries, and you're like, that's not cool. But you find a signet ring with them that have the Iduken symbol on it, which means that someone from the Iduken family, you can assume it's Trian, sent mercenaries after you. Afterwards, as you're trying to make your way back, you meet up with Trian, and then a fight breaks out because he really wants you dead, and Trian ends up dying. Right after he dies, unfortunately, the king, alongside of most of the dwarven nobles, finds you just bloody over the body of your oldest brother. Ew. And the other dwarves that are there with you, whether your companions or their Trians, all collaborate and say, well, Trian was trying to be nice, but then you get mad and you attack them and kill them. And so none of the other lords question it. They're like, all right, cool, you don't deserve to be here. So they then, instead of killing you on the spot, they just banish you to the deep roads, which sounds just as bad as you think it is. You are not allowed back in the city or anything. You're just stay in the deep roads until you die. But you get lucky. You bump into Duncan, because he's everywhere.
Wow. What do you know?
You bump into Duncan, and he asks, hey, I'll help you get out if you decide to become a Grey Warden. You don't have much of a choice. So
no.
You decide to agree with them, which then results in you become a Grey Warden, and you get out of the deep roads. And that's the ending of the Dwarf Noble.
And we have one final origin, the Dwarf Commoner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Dwarf Commoner takes place in the same place, takes place in Orzammar, but instead of being a dwarf noble, you're a dwarf commoner. Specifically, you are a casteless dwarf, which means you have no house to claim. You know, and that could happen through several reasons. It could just be you're not from Orzammar, or you did something so horrible that your house was stripped of you, or you were just the child of two people who are both casteless.
Just unlucky in the family you were born into.
Yes, and they are typically poor, and they all typically live in the slums of Orzammar.
Yeah.
Your character decides to kind of work with the Carta, which is essentially like the mafia of Orzammar. The Carta, you hear more about them as you get throughout the game. They have more reach than you think, but the Carta typically operate outside of Orzammar. You are tasked with killing a lyrium smuggler, which another thing, Orzammar is a big supplier of lyrium because lyrium is typically an ore found in the ground, and dwarves love rocks.
Yeah. So dwarves kind of run lyrium trade.
Yes, and lyrium is mostly bought by Templars and mages, so big market. But you are trying to find a lyrium smuggler who was hiding lyrium. And kill him. Get out of the way. They don't like him. They don't want him there. You are then asked to try and rig the proving by drugging a contestant so that the leader of the Carta, he has a fighter inside the proving, and he wants him to win. So you have to go drug the other contestants to then kind of make him win. But you find out that Barot's fighter is super drunk. He's not doing too well. And so you're like, I know what I'll do. You'll just wear his armor and pretend to be him in the proving. It's all going fine. You know, you're winning fights. You think you've won, but then suddenly the real Evard stumbles out, super drunk, which spoils everything. And then you and him both get caught. You're both in prison because you tried to rig the proving, because the dwarves really like their tournaments and they don't like that. You end up killing Barat as you try to get out.
Oh, geez.
Which means you can either just die on the spot, or you can choose to exile yourself. And then I promise for the last time, guess who shows up to save you? Duncan. He's like, hey, I can help you, but only if you become a Grey Warden. We promise we love Duncan.
Yeah.
But he kind of doesn't give you much of a choice.
No, the game would be dramatically shorter if Duncan gave you a choice. Yes.
And that's kind of the brutalness of like the rites of conscription, is because even if you didn't want to, you kind of can't say no to the rites of conscription because they're ancient treaties. They're like, you can either help me, and if you say no, I'm like, well, then now I have to kill you.
Yeah. Basically.
So that's the ending of the dwarf noble, the dwarf commoner. I mean, it's
all of the origins.
Lot of not fun stuffing. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just a quick note: congrats to Zlo for completing Dragon Age 2. And yeah, there's just so much lore in these games. Yeah. We've literally only just finished the prologue of the game, essentially.
Now we can actually get into the game.
Yeah. And again, I forgot to switch the image. So here is the commoner dwarf image.
Professional streamer, I promise.
Yep. So moving on, after the origins, in all of which Duncan has recruited you to join the Wardens, you get to Ostagar, where Duncan, this strapping gentleman in the middle here, has recruited you, brought you to Ostagar, to prepare for what's called the joining. We don't know what the joining is at this point, but you are basically, brought in as a recruit. You get to explore camp a little bit, but you are sent out with Alistair and 2 other Warden recruits, Davith and Jory, and you're tasked with obtaining Darkspawn blood, as well as rumored copies of Warden treaties, so that you can use them to petition all of the local factions and cities to say, hey, we need you to help fight the Blight. So that's your task. Once you've completed that, or actually before we even get get to that. While you're out obtaining those treaties, you do meet a companion named Morrigan. We'll get to her momentarily, but you do find the treaties, and you do get some Darkspawn blood. So when you come back,
We love Morgan.
yes, we love Morgan so much. When you come back, you can do a few other things around camp, but then you undergo the joining. So the joining is a Grey Warden ritual that is not talked about outside of the Wardens. You don't even learn about it as a recruit until you're going through it. There's a very good reason for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Recruits drink a mixture of lyrium powder, darkspawn blood, and a drop of archdemon blood. And you know why now I said the joining is kind of just blood magic. This mixture, it's kind of vile. It's out of this fancy chalice that you see here. And your companions go through this first. Alistair, one of your companions, he already went through it. He's a new recruit, already gone the joining. Davith goes first, and he dies. It kills him pretty much instantly. Yeah.
Very
Jory,
painfully, mind you.
yeah, very painfully. Jory sees this, freaks out, is like, I've got a wife at home, I've got kids, I can't do this. Because he now knows what the joining is and doesn't want to do it, Duncan just kills him. Because it's either join or die. Because even if you go through the joining, you still might die. Exactly. Thankfully, you, as a player character, do survive, and you become a warden. During the process of the joining, though, once you've taken a sip, your character does have a vision of the archdemon, which is terrifying, but it just shows immediately that you have a connection to the Darkspawn, and that's the big kind of thing that sets the wardens apart. They are able to sense Darkspawn,
They
and especially
essentially
the
become
archdemon.
a sentient, non-ugly Darkspawn.
Yeah, exactly. So just to kind of summarize who we met, two characters that we met that are important. The first companion you meet is Alistair. So he's the one that has already become a warden. He'll be with you throughout the game. So he was preparing to join the Templars before he was recruited by the wardens. And again, he's already gone through the joining. He's affectionately known as kind of like the golden retriever of the companions.
My favorite companion.
He's wonderful. You'll learn a little bit more about him as we go. While out getting those treaties and the Darkspawn blood, you meet the lovely Morrigan. I love her. She's gorgeous. What's not to love?
Everyone loves Morgan.
Yeah. Darn she what happened to Alistair in my playthrough. What did you do to Alistair, Slow?
What did you do?
What'd you do?
I don't. You gotta. Now hold on. We have more important things now. What do you? He deserves nothing but the best.
Yeah. While we wait for Slow to respond to that question, I'm sure he's probably like, oh, I don't know if I should say now.
Yeah. You can obviously see why Morrigan is widely accepted as one of the best companions.
Yes.
Without knowing.
You chose Logain over him. Okay. That's understandable because, yeah, making Logain a warden, I actually like doing that personally. It's just unfortunate that it's negative for Alistair. So I understand. So Morrigan, she is the daughter of Flemeth, who you do meet. We'll get to Flemeth later. But she is sent by Flemeth to join Alistair and yourself later on. During this, you also meet a lovely dog, a Mabari, affectionately known as Barkspawn among the fandom. Because who doesn't love a punny name for a dog?
Yeah, look at him. He's just big. There's nothing going on to that head of his. It's just nothing, just like a pea rattling around.
Yeah. So this Mabari specifically, though, he is infected with the Darkspawn taint. And so he's going to die unless you can get a flower that will heal him. And this is something that is exclusive to Mabari. People can't be healed by this flower, but Mabari can. They're a warhound, so they've got a lot of fight in them, I
A lot
guess
of
you could say.
gusto, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, after you go through the joining, this is Ostagar, by the way. This is where all this is taking place. Prior to battling the Darkspawn, because there is a battle coming up, you can speak with both Loghain and Kaelin, as well as some other wardens. This is Kaelin. He's king of Ferelden. What a dashing young lad. Looks oddly familiar. We'll get to that later.
Promise no connection.
Yeah. And so we'll get to a couple other characters in a second, but basically once the battle starts, after you speak to everybody, you and Alistair are tasked with going up into the Tower of Ishal, which is let me go back. Going too far. Okay, the Tower of Ishal, the very top tower in Ostagar. And you need to light a signal beacon to let Loghain's troops know that it's time to go support Kaelin and the Wardens. Unfortunately, Loghain betrays Kaelin, withdraws his troops, and leaves Kaelin, Duncan, and the Ostagar Wardens to die. Darkspawn kill them. You and Alistair live, but you're overcome by Darkspawn and wake up at Flemeth's hut. We love Flemeth.
Yeah.
She's known as the Witch of the Wilds, which, tracks. She lives in the wilds.
Yeah.
She, as I mentioned before, the Witch of the Wilds, helped Merrick and Loghain. Merrick is Kaelin's father. And she helped them during the book, The Stolen Throne. She takes care of you and Alistair after Ostagar, and then ultimately says, "Hey, Morrigan, daughter, go join them. Go on an adventure." After
Much
this,
to Morgan's disdain.
oh yeah, Morgan's not about it. Morgan is not about it, but she goes reluctantly. And actually, this might be a great place for us to take a break in a moment. Let an ad run. Give y'all a chance to take a bathroom break too, because I know I might want to go grab like a little drink or something. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds good to me. I can go grab some
Okay,
drink.
cool. I'm gonna go ahead and put a BRB screen up, y'all, and we'll be back in like 2-3 minutes.
Yep. See
Be
you in a bit.
right back. Hello, hello, and welcome back, everybody, from the ads. I took a second to go get myself a drink. And
I am
when
also back.
welcome back, perfect timing. So we are gonna now jump back in to Lothering. So after you've left Flemeth's hut with Alistair and Morgan, you come across Lothering. Cindy, would you like to take it away with Lothering?
Okay, yeah. I can get to Lothering. Lothering is essentially right now, you are kind of ahead of the Darkspawn army, you know.
Mm-hmm.
As you get into Lothering, you know, it's just a very small little town. It has, you know, great big like grain mill. It has a chantry. It's got some churches, got some houses. Not a very big town, but it's along like the main road as you're trying to travel further.
Mm-hmm.
You get there, you notice there's also a bunch of like refugees hanging out because everyone's trying to escape the blight. And then as you explore around Lothering, you can find two more main party members. You can find Liliana, which she works as a sister in the Chantry. As you kind of help her out, she can be like, "I really want to come with you. I'm sure Musical knows more about much more deeper knowledge of Liliana than I do."
I have a lot about Liliana.
And then you can also find Sten, which whenever you first find Sten, he seems like just an extremely large human. He is a very, very large person inside of a cage. He's locked up. You ask him what he did. I think he mentioned he killed someone.
Yeah, I can get into that if you want.
Yeah, I'll let you get into the deeper parts of Liliana and Sten.
Yeah. So first with Liliana. So she's working as a Chantry sister. You meet her actually in the tavern. After a little bar fight. But a little backstory on Liliana first. Like I said before, she has a whole DLC dedicated to her. That it serves as a prequel to the game. So it's her backstory with her mentor / like master person she serves, kind of. It's a little bit like ambiguous. Named Marjolaine. During this story, Marjolaine betrays Liliana. And I mean, long story short, Liliana gets away and meets Mother Dorothea, a Chantry mother. And that's when Liliana joins the Chantry. That's why we see her here in Lothering, serving under Mother Dorothea. And when you do meet her after this bar fight, she claims that the Maker sent her a vision saying, "You gotta aid this warden and end the blight." Like, she had like a true vision of this. So she's a very sweet companion, one of my favorites personally. And then with Sten, Cindy mentioned, he looks kind of like a human, but he's not. He is a Kunari. And his crime that he's in this cage for is that he killed a family. He just straight up slaughtered a family. You get some more information out of him later, but you have the option to break him out and take him with you, or request that the Chantry release him, or you could leave him there. But I don't know who would leave him there, unless you really hate him.
Look at him.
Yeah, he's just a big teddy bear. But that's Liliana and Sten. On your way out of Lothering, you can meet Sandal and Vodan.
Sandal and Vodan.
I love them both.
Look at them, just a pair of dudes.
But you could learn from Vodan that he found Sandal in the Deep Roads years ago and basically just adopted him, because that's what you do when you find a kid lost in the Deep Roads. Vodan becomes...
Look, did it.
Yeah. Vodan becomes your camp merchant, basically supplying you with anything you could possibly need and also allowing you to sell stuff and make money. And Sandal is your enchanter. He basically says one word the entire time you know him, and that is enchantment. And it's very cute.
And everyone loves him for it.
Yes.
Sandal
And there's
does
a
his
lot we'll
absolute
learn about
best
Sandal
every
later.
game.
Yeah. We'll learn a lot more about Sandal later, but he is best boy.
If you don't like Sandal, I don't like you.
Yeah. That's so true. So true. Okay, so there's a couple main story things we're gonna get into in a second, but basically once you leave Lothering, the city of Denerim opens up as a place you can go. This is the Market of Denerim. It's a very fun place. I personally love Denerim as a city. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
You also gain access to the Warden's Keep DLC, set in Soldier's Peak. You get to basically explore some Warden history and learn about the Dryden family, see the reenactment of their deaths, kind of traumatic, but just kind of like ghosts and stuff. And, you know, there's a rebellion and some blood magic, and who doesn't love the intrigue of that? And you can gain a cool blood magic ability. But it's not exclusive to blood magic. I think you can gain a blood ability of some sort regardless of your class once you complete that quest. And then the other option that you have that opens up is the Return to Oscar DLC. You can basically go back to Oscar and view the battlefield and recover Kaelin's armor and weapons from him, as well as some documents that belong to Kaelin and Loghain. Just a little bit of extra lore, basically. But next thing, big thing story-wise, is Redcliffe. And I kind of took away a lot of Lothering from you, so I'll let you go into Redcliffe if you want.
Okay, so yeah, once you arrive in Redcliffe, it is well, whenever you first meet it, it's just a smaller town outside of like a much bigger castle, but all collectively known as Redcliffe. It's being attacked by Darkspawn constantly. You can choose to help them kind of push back the Darkspawn, which, you know, lets you do a handful of quests inside the town, like you have to like find someone's sibling, but they're just hiding in a closet. You can do some stuff inside of the chantry. I think you can help find the maid. You can choose to help the blacksmith find his daughter or something.
Yep.
But essentially, all of it kind of ends with you deciding to help them, which makes you stay there until nighttime when the Darkspawn attack. And that's, you know, you battle to save Redcliffe.
Yep.
After all that's done, you then gain access to Redcliffe Castle, which has a whole different slew of problems. Arl Eamon, which he kind of runs Redcliffe Castle, is very, very sick. They can't wake him up. He isn't responding to anything. His wife is not happy, and their son is possessed.
Yeah.
Their son Connor is possessed by a demon. If you play as the mage origin, you can see Joan again, but that's just kind of a very specific thing. He tried to tutor Connor, didn't go too hot.
No, it went very wrong.
Yeah. Arl Eamon's brother is trying to help, Bantegan. And then essentially you decide you're just going to try to help. You're just going to focus on Connor and trying to help Arl Eamon. And with the whole Connor part, you have to try to go into the Fade to try to sever the demon's connection that is possessing Connor. And you can sacrifice his mother. Is that who it is?
Yes. So
yes, you can sacrifice his mother as part of a blood magic type deal to then get into the Fade.
Yes.
Which is not something not a lot of people want to live with.
No, but Isolde does ask to do it because she feels guilty for bringing Jowan in.
Yes. Or you can just go to the circle. You can get Lyrium and go in the normal way. Or you can just basically tease the demon to then just kill Connor, and then you kill the demon too.
Right. Which is not a great outcome.
That one, yeah, because then everyone's dead, and then the mom is just eternally traumatized.
Yep. It's kind of
but
rough.
all of those end with you fighting a desire demon.
Yep.
Everyone loves the desire demon.
We love a desire demon.
Yeah, that's you go through the fade. You have to try to, again, you're just severing the demon's connection to Connor to try to just release him, because a Connor, if you didn't notice, Connor's a mage.
Yeah.
Or at least he has magical aptitude.
Yeah.
Desire demon, yeah.
We love the desire demon.
Yeah. And that's essentially what that is. You are releasing him from the demon's hold, and then after all that is solved and everything's calmed down, you can then choose to focus on healing Arl Eamon, and this is where you find out that there is an urn full of sacred ashes that has the ability to just heal things. There's
Supposedly.
there's no real evidence behind it, but they're like, we've ran out of options.
Yeah.
Through this, you get to meet up with Brother Genitivi. Everyone loves Brother Genitivi.
He writes literally everything you can find in Thetis, I feel like.
He writes a lot.
He does write a lot.
The codex.
Yeah.
You travel to Haven. It's full of very culty people, and you have to kind of make your way through this, like the Temple of Andraste or whatever, to try then find the ashes. And then you have two choices. You can either retrieve the ashes like a normal human being, or you can choose to taint the ashes. And that's really only two options the game kind of gives you.
Yeah, but either will cure Arl Eamon.
Yes. And then I think one of them results in some angriness from Liliana.
Yeah, Liliana will literally fight you if you choose to taint the ashes. And that's a fight to the death, unfortunately.
Yes.
So that is a way that you can lose Liliana.
Yeah. She's not happy because she's very, very churchy, and the ashes of Andraste are a very churchy thing.
Yeah. Before we move forward too, I do want to mention, Zlo mentioned something about the Return to Ostagar DLC, specifically with the documents and things you can find, and that they mention why Loghain betrays Kaelin. And while I don't remember all of the reasons, I do know that one of the reasons, this is kind of outlined in the books as well, but Kaelin, his mother died very early, either in childbirth or shortly after childbirth, after giving birth to Kaelin. Now, I mentioned before that Merrick, Kaelin's father, and Loghain were best friends, but they had a falling out over a girl. And that is because Merrick was betrothed to and married the woman that Loghain was in love with. And then that woman died after Kaelin was born. Loghain's salty about it. So that definitely contributes a bit to things. And also he just feels that Kaelin will never live up to Merrick's standards. So I just wanted to add that because Lo kind of mentioned that. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. So, excuse me. After all of that, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just kind of going to the next part since you like this person a lot more than I do.
So after you've taken care of the Urn of Sacred Ashes, and you can technically do this before Redcliffe, but I like doing it after. Makes sense. You can go around to the 3 different factions, the elves, the mages / Templars, and the dwarves, to recruit their help. Before we get into those, though, after completing any one of those 3 missions, you encounter Zevran. He is a lovely elf. He's an Antivan Crow as well, Guild of Assassins from Antiva, and he has been sent to assassinate you, your warden. You later find out, or actually even before, I believe, you find out he was hired by Loghain and Arl Howe. You might recognize that name. Arl Howe was mentioned in the human noble origin as the family that kind of betrayed the Kuslans.
Yeah.
And you get into a fight with Zevran and his crew. And when he's the only one left alive, you can choose to either recruit him or kill him. He understandably is like, yeah, you could do either one, and that would be in your right. But he's wonderful to recruit. I think he's great. If you've not played Origins or you've not recruited him, you're missing out.
Yeah. You'll find a pattern on the men that she likes as we go through this.
Listen, I've said it before on stream. I'll say it again. I am a lesbian, but the men of Dragon Age are all very attractive.
Specifically, a lot of the elven men.
Yeah. I mean, the elves, I like the elves the best, so. Just in general.
Never would have figured.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the different factions. So first, we have the elves located in the Brazilian forest. So when you arrive at the Brazilian forest, there's a Dalish camp. And the elves will pretty much straight up tell you, like, hey, we can't uphold the treaties because we're dealing with a werewolf infestation in the forest. The Keeper Zathrian, will ask you in your party, though, to help with the werewolf threat. Say, go into the woods, find the source, specifically a wolf named Witherfang. So you go search for Witherfang. And while you're traveling through the forest, you encounter another werewolf named Swiftrunner. And I always look at this image of Swiftrunner and his buddies, and I'm like, this is just like a early 2000s boy band album cover.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know? Yeah. But it's revealed here with Swiftrunner that the werewolves are acting more out of revenge than mindless killing. They're not just killing to kill. They're not insane. There's a reason that they're trying to go after the elves. Later on, you encounter a magical barrier, and because of that magical barrier, you've got to go find something to help you get through. And you encounter you can encounter both, but come across either the Mad Hermit or the Old Oak first. I don't remember everything with the Mad Hermit and the Old Oak. Cindy, how much do you remember of that?
Not a whole lot, if I'm being honest. They're just both kind of a means to an end to progress the story. It's just a lot of, you can either help one or the other to get through the forest.
Yeah.
I don't think either have a giant lore impact. The Hermit is just kind of a crazy old man, and the tree is just an old talking tree.
Yeah. I personally like helping the Old Oak because the Hermit, he kind of stole the oak's acorn, and that's literally you're retrieving an acorn for the Old Oak that the Hermit stole. I don't remember what you do, though, if you help the Hermit. I think it's just killing the Old Oak, which I don't really like.
Maybe. Or like a branch or something.
Yeah. But once you're able to pass through that magical barrier you're trying to get around, Swiftrunner makes another appearance. You fight. Before he dies, Witherfang steps in and allows Swiftrunner to retreat. And you fight your way through the Brazilian ruins. The Brazilian ruins are really cool, but it's a long fight through. But once you've entered the werewolf lair, you meet the Lady of the Forest, another lovely lady from Dragon Age.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. Like, I love her design with the branches. She just looks so cool. And there's a lot of different things that can happen from here. First off, you learn that the werewolves are not just attacking for no reason, like it was implied before. but that the werewolves were humans cursed by Keeper Zathrian. And they've been this way for probably centuries at this point. And Zathrian has been alive for centuries because of this curse. Elves don't live that long anymore. And the werewolves just want to be free. They just want to be human again, or free of the elves at the very least. And so you have some options. You can side with the elves and attack the werewolves. At that point, the elves that have been suffering from werewolf bites and the like, they will honor the treaty, help you fight against the blight. You could also side with the werewolves, attack Zathrian, and the werewolves will help you at the end of the blight. And the elves are not cured. The other option, the one I like, I think a lot of people prefer, is to side with the elves and werewolves jointly, and convince Zathrian to break the curse, killing Zathrian, and also releasing the Lady of the Forest, because she is a spirit, and releasing her. Essentially, the elves are cured, the werewolves become human, and the elves will still honor the treaties and help with the battle at the blight. But conversing with the Lady of the Forest will explain the origin of the conflict between them a little bit more. To get into it a little bit, but not too much, Zathrian cursed these humans because they murdered his son and assaulted his daughter. Not great. But this was a long time ago, and these werewolves were not part of that. You know, it's been generations of werewolves at this point. So that is the elves. I personally love the quest. And I can't imagine siding with the elves or the werewolves and not trying to help both. But that's just me.
Yeah. Most people typically try to help both.
Yeah. Do you want to take Orzammar?
I can definitely take Orzammar. So,
I forgot about this image.
oh lord. So
Dwarves live here and stuff.
So the elves, the dwarves, and the mages, they can be done in any order. So these are done in no particular order.
Right.
You can arrive at Orzammar outside the main gates, and Orzammar, the city itself is located under the Frostback Mountains, big mountains, lots of snow.
Mm-hmm.
But you can show up, and you have to use essentially your status as a Grey Warden to get in to Orzammar. Once you're there, you'll see Prince Balin and arguing with someone, Lord Haramont, and then you find out that both of them are trying to become the next king.
Yeah. Which, gotta say, dwarves have great beards.
Yes.
But Balin's is really sad compared to Haramont's.
Yes. And it's one of those things where Balin, although technically has a more legit claim to the throne, Haramont just believes that he would make a better king. As you do different quests with other people in Orzammar, or as you talk with them, you can kind of find out what each person is all about. Because essentially, at the end of this section, you get to choose who becomes king.
Yeah.
And all of this goes through with.
And we do actually have some of their stances too.
Yes. As you find out about them, you find out that Balin, basically, he's just like, well, this is my end goal, so that justifies all the stuff that I've been doing.
Yeah.
He wants to encourage them to go to, like, because leaving Orzammar and being a quote unquote surface dwarf is a lot of dwarves don't like it. They like
it
to
renders you castless, technically.
Yes. If you willingly leave Orzammar, aside from a handful of like special missions, quote unquote, choosing to leave means that if you come back, you're essentially a stranger to all things Orzammar. But Balin wants to encourage the dwarves to not be little hermits and actually like be out there with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also want to bring up castless dwarves, because again, castless dwarves, it's super hard for them to get jobs. They can't even become proper soldiers because even being a soldier is like a house thing.
Which is kind of wild when you think that they're fighting Darkspawn all the time.
Yes. And then Harrowmont, which most people typically don't go with. Very much a warrior. He's like, I gotta act like a warrior. I gotta have the honor of a warrior.
And he's the High General of Orzammar when you meet him.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. He's the High General. And he is very much into tradition. He was like, this is what we've always done. This is what we should keep doing. It's the argument of it has worked this long. It will keep working.
Yeah.
And then he is the complete opposite when it comes to Balin. He wants the dwarves to be even more isolated. He was like, we don't need no one. I'm a strong, independent dwarf. I don't need no Ferelden. I don't know. And that's generally their stances.
Yeah.
Balin wants to push the dwarves further. Harrowmont wants to kind of keep the dwarves in one spot and let them be themselves.
Yeah.
But to do all of this, you are tasked to try to find Anvil of the Void, which is essentially they're both seeking something that would give them an edge above the other whenever it comes to choosing who the next king would be.
And specifically looking for Paragon Branca because she would have sway with the assembly in terms of her vote for who would be king.
Yes. And when it comes to paragons are essentially dwarves that did something, like either they invented something or they did something so big that they are like now permanently remembered by all dwarves.
Yeah. Almost godhood for ancestors, but not quite. They're not worshipped.
Yes. Like if you could be like the lower rung like class in the caste system, but if your ancestor invents something that's so exceptionally great, your entire house could be elevated to the very top just because your ancestor did something really cool 400 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paragons, very important people. And then the most recent one is Paragon Branca, and the only reason they're looking for her is she's disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been that long, so everyone's like, well, maybe she's still alive out there.
Yeah.
And her big contribution was she is the reason that kind of golems are around some places. She found a way to make golems. How she makes them is explained further, but as you have to go into the deep roads to try to find them, but as you're on your way to the deep roads, you can meet Oghren, which everyone loves Oghren.
I would say most people don't love Oghren.
He's a very, very rash. He's very rough, very, very dwarf. But he was Branca's husband. One moment.
Yeah, he was Branca's husband. Who doesn't love Oghren? I don't love Oghren.
My brother had to ask me a question.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, he is Branca's husband, and then he will ask to join you in the deep roads because he wants to see if she's still alive.
Yeah.
And so you can bring him with you. A lot of the different party members, we could assume you just accept and bring them with you because there's no reason not.
Right. Yeah. If you choose not to bring party members into your party, who are you? I mean, Ogren's the only one. Ogren's the only one I could be like, maybe I wouldn't recruit him.
Yeah. But you can bring Oghren into your party, and then you're off to the deep roads. Again, the deep roads are all very, very scary place. They're filled with just weird underground creatures like deep stalkers. They're also just filled to the brim with just darkspawn, because again, this is where the darkspawn reside whenever there isn't a blight. Because the blight doesn't summon the darkspawn. The blight is essentially just the archdemon giving the darkspawn direction, and that's what brings him to the surface
Yeah.
and makes him want to. So, like, while the fighting on the surface is really bad during a blight, there is always fighting underground with the darkspawn.
Yes. 1000%.
Yeah. So you have to make your way through the deep roads, go through Carradon's Cross, Orton Tig, and then Tigs are
Kind of like
tunnels.
a fort or palace.
Yeah,
Or
they're
complex.
just
Also,
really
pause for a
big.
sec.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Becca. Hello, Raiders. Welcome. hello, sister Raid. How we doing, y'all? Welcome, Red 7. Welcome, Becca. Welcome, Darkness Queen. We finished Zelda. Oh my gosh. How was it? Welcome, Derek Nino. How are y'all? Echoes of Wisdom is crossed off the Zelda games playthrough. Love it. Stressful but fun. I'm glad. Well, Raiders, welcome all. Love it. Get to part of the Raiders and the Raided. We love that. Welcome everyone. I'm Musical Finesse. I'm Botanical Becca's older sister. I also stream, obviously. I am a massive fan of Dragon Age, and that's what we're talking about tonight.
What?
Woo!
Me.
Yeah. I have my mod, Cindy, here with me, too. We're talking through Dragon Age together. We're doing a lore recap series. So tonight we're talking about the first game, Dragon Age Origins. Thursday, I'll be talking about Dragon Age 2. Saturday will be Dragon Age Inquisition. Next Monday is the Bard Songs music stream. So I'll be singing and playing the piano. It'll be really fun. And then next Thursday, Dragon Age Veilguard releases. And I'm so excited. 10 days left. Hi, Mint Wasabi. Went to Becca's stream for chill vibes and ended up in the middle of the final boss fight out of nowhere. Oh no. Well, hey, it's super chill here. We're just chatting tonight. Derby got a missed call from Grammy. So did I. Let me know if everything's okay, because I got a missed call from our grandmother as well. But readers, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to stick around and learn some lore about Dragon Age. Thank you, Becca, again for the raid. Feel free to lurk. Feel free to chat. Feel free to run away if you really want to. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'd love it if you stayed, but we're going to get back into it. We're talking about Orzammar and the dwarves. And take it away, Cindy.
Yeah, so Tigs, as we were explaining before, Tigs are essentially big. They're actual, like, the dwarven, because the deep roads include everything that just is underground, which can include just natural caverns and tunnels.
It's kind of a giant maze labyrinth kind of network.
Yes, a Tig is a much more maintained part of the tunnel. The dwarves got to it, they built stuff there, they built roads, they built buildings, sometimes maybe a town or something like that.
Yeah.
But Tigs are almost like checkpoints sometimes. It's some Tigs are, some Tigs aren't, but essentially just dwarves got there and built stuff. You eventually, as you keep going, as you're underground, you'll eventually have a vision about the archdemon, which makes sense because they like to dwell underground and you are in the underground.
Yeah, very close proximity at that point.
Yeah, and then you eventually come across one of my favorite factions in Dragon Age, the Legion of the Dead.
Yeah.
Quick little recap, Legion of the Dead. They serve as kind of the same role as Grey Wardens. They are a shield against the Darkspawn in the underground, and because if it wasn't for the Legion of the Dead, the Darkspawn would just flood Orzammar, just with no trouble. And then become a Legion of the Dead is there are several ways to become one. You can either choose to join them. Sometimes criminals join them as like a last resort.
Yeah.
But once you join Legion of the Dead, a funeral is held in your name. You are essentially dead to everyone. And then you are sent underground and you fight until you die.
Yep. What a way to
that's the
live
whole
or
thing.
die.
Yeah, you just go underground, you fight until you are no longer alive.
Yep.
But as you convert to the Legion of the Dead, you find Bronca, but she kind of gets away and she leads you through some other places. You gotta fight some golems, some darkspawn.
Yeah, she's
You
kind
gotta
of
go through
booby
some
trapped the
rest.
place.
Yeah. After you kind of fight through all of that junk, you eventually meet Caridin, who is a golem, and he
Really
explains to
massive
you,
golem.
very big golem. He explains to you before you get to Bronca how golems are made. And the way golems are made are, you make the golem, and then you take the soul out of a dwarf and put it in the golem.
Mm-hmm. Kind of brutal.
So, you are.
Thank you for the follow, Fooch.
You are just
Welcome.
exchanging bodies, and after you have that whole conversation, you have one of 3 major choices to do with the anvil, because Bronca's at the anvil of the void.
Yeah.
You can support Caridin, and you can destroy the anvil. You can support Bronca because she wants to keep making golems and keep the anvil, or you can support Bronca but still convince her to destroy the anvil.
Mm-hmm.
All of these usually end in a fight. I think all of them end in a fight
Yes.
of some sort. Because obviously Caridin doesn't want her to make more golems, because you have to kill a dwarf to make a golem.
Mm-hmm.
Bronca wants to keep making golems, which makes Caridin mad, so you have to fight Caridin.
Yeah.
Depending on either one, they will use the anvil to make a crown. And that crown is made by a very high important figure, and was made on the Anvil of the Void, so it holds a lot of political sway once you get up top.
Basically, Caridin or Bronca trust you with their vote.
Yes, neither of them say you should choose Balin or Haremont. They say, here is the crown, you choose who is best. So whenever you get to the top, you go to the big meeting area, and you're like, I have the Anvil of the Void. It was made by Bronca or Caridin. This is who they chose. I think you say this is who they chose instead of this is who you choose.
Yeah.
And then you can
because
choose
you're speaking on their
between-
behalf.
Yes, and then you choose either Haremont or Balin. And then there's some smaller like epilogue stuff with that. They're just like, this is what's going to end up happening in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But it's ultimately your choice whether you choose to be either isolationist or expansionist with the dwarves.
Yeah.
And then we have some little extra stuff about Ogren.
Yeah, which I also want to specify real quick. I am going to start another ad, just so we don't have to snooze. We can save the snooze if we need it for something else. But Ogren, y'all got a lot of information about Ogren already, but we're going to give you just a couple extra tidbits while the ads run.
Yes, one moment.
Yeah, you're good.
Anyways, I got back. He is very drunk. He likes drinking. His very big thing.
Always.
Obviously, you already know he's the husband of Bronca, and he is probably one of the dirtiest, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, physically for sure. I'd say Zevran comes in a close second in terms of like
very
jokes
about how like kind of dirty he can be.
He
Ogren
puts like a
is
really
very
sugary
blunt.
coat on top of it, I would say.
Ogren is very blunt about how on his dirty jokes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is Orzammar and the Deep Road. So the last faction we have to get into is the Mages / Templars. This all takes place at the Ferelden Circle Tower. So the party, when going to the Circle Tower, arrives at Lake Calenhad, which, just to give some perspective, Redcliffe sits on Lake Calenhad, so it's really not far from Redcliffe. But you arrive at the Calenhad docks, and you have to convince a Templar to take you across the lake to the tower. The tower sits on an island in the middle of the lake, basically preventing mages from escaping the tower, which speaks to a lot of the politics of the towers. But once you're in the tower, you find Commander Gregor. He is a Templar as well. He's requesting reinforcements from Denerim to perform the rite of annulment, which basically would obliterate the entire tower and just kill and destroy anything and everything living in the tower, including mages, because he considers the tower too far gone to save. Welcome back from the ads, everybody. And there are just abominations and demons all over the place. So he's thinking, okay, there's no saving the mages here. We just gotta invoke the rite of annulment. But since you arrive, he's like, hey, you know what? If you want to go look around and see if you can save people before I do this, go for it. So the party can choose if you want to side with the Templars. You can just choose to let Gregor invoke the rite of annulment and work with the Templars in the future. But if you'd rather work with the mages, you go through the process of sweeping through the tower, saving any and all survivors you can, and getting rid of abominations and demons that you come across. The whole goal being find the first enchanter, and so that the first enchanter can come back and tell Commander Gregor, hey, tower's safe, no rite of annulment needed. But shortly after you start working your way through the tower, you meet Wynn. Wynn is a lovely older woman. The companions all joke, and I think the joke in the fandom is that Wynn is really ancient and old. She's only like in her 40s. She's not that old, but she looks old. They made her look really old. They talk about her as if she's ancient. She's not. She's in her 40s. But when you encounter her, she's fighting a rage demon, and she set up a barrier blocking access to the rest of the tower to keep some of the mages she's with safe, including children, which like is kind of sad, like that there are children involved in all this. But after talking with her, you can choose to recruit her or fight her to get past her and the barrier. I don't know of anyone that just chooses to fight her. I would always recruit her. But as you continue through the tower, once recruiting or fighting her, you're fighting abominations and blood mages. Because a lot of mages just resort to blood magic to save themselves, even sometimes. You come across the first enchanter's room and find something called the Black Grimoire, which we'll make a note of for later. I'm just laughing at the note here. As you make your way up, you also meet a possessed and charmed Templar who's accompanied by a desire demon. The desire demon has charmed this Templar into thinking that he's got a lovely life with a beautiful woman and all's good, when in reality he's in the midst of chaos. And you gotta fight them, unfortunately. Or you can leave them be if you really want to. But further up, you find an abomination named Sloth, and this abomination puts everyone to sleep. He sends everyone into the Fade, and now you have to break down his defenses and escape somehow, by making your way through lots of puzzles in the Fade and finding all of your party companions and convincing them, hey, what you're witnessing right now, these false images and realities, these are not real. We're in the Fade. Let's get out. Let's continue with our mission. After that, you encounter Cullen. If you've watched any of my Dragon Age streams, you probably know who Cullen is. Oh, yes, Lo. The Fade is clearly everyone's favorite part of the game. There are mods that are made just to skip the Fade mission because it's a lot. Personally like it, but I don't know about you, Cindy. I actually like the Fade mission. But yeah, after all that, you come across Cullen, and he's a Templar who is saying that the player needs to must kill all of the demons and the mages, because clearly nothing good will come from any of this. You can choose to agree him and get help from the Templars, or you can ignore him and continue working your way to saving the mages. When you reach the top of the tower, the harrowing chamber, you meet the mage Uldred, who's causing all the trouble, and he is actually a pride demon at this point. After you defeating him, you can kill all the remaining mages that are with him, or you can save them. If you kill them, you're making the Templars happy, and if you save them, you're making the Circle and the mages happy. Colin's a bastard in 2 games, and then not so much in the 3rd. Yeah, he really has a turnaround with his life, which is good. But that's the Circle, and the mages and the Templars. So moving on to Honleith. This is a DLC called The Stone Prisoner, where we meet a companion named Shale. Would you like me to take this, Cindy, or do you want to take it?
I'll let you. You've
Okay.
played Honleith. I haven't played Honleith.
Oh, okay, perfect. So Honleith is not far from Redcliffe, but when you travel there, you're ultimately looking to find a golem control rod. You've been sent there to look for this control rod to control a golem that stands in the middle of the town, just as a statue. The one we see here. After saving Honleith from some darkspawn, you can use the command phrase and control rod on the golem, but it doesn't work. So you go into a local townsperson's cellar. His name's Wilhelm. You're looking for the correct command phrase, and you meet Wilhelm, but he says his daughter's missing and further down in the cellar. His daughter, Amalia. You come across her, and she's with a cat. Really cute cat, who turns out to be a desire demon named Kitty. You can choose to keep everybody alive and happy. You can choose to work with the demon. You can choose to kill the demon. There's various outcomes of that, but ultimately you get the command phrase, and you can awaken Shale. So Shale, we learn throughout the rest of the game, she was a dwarven woman from Caridon's time. So this kind of goes back to the Orzammar quest line. And she was turned into a golem and has been in Honleith for a very long time. She absolutely detests pigeons. But later on, she develops a really beautiful relationship with Wynn, which I think is lovely. And later on, when wandering in the deep roads, specifically Orton Tag, Shale will recall Kadash Tag, which is where she's from. And you can actually travel there with her at some point. So, a couple things that we just wanted to include before we get into like end game things. First off with Isabella. Isabella is a character you can encounter and recruit in Dragon Age 2. However, you actually do meet her in Dragon Age Origins. She is in the Black Pearl tavern in Denerim. And there are some conditions, but you can have a fun little encounter with her, if you will. There's options just to go have a little tryst with her by yourself, with one other character, or as a foursome. So you can have you and her, a threesome, or a foursome. There are a lot of combinations for the threesome. Yeah, all of them are great. There are a lot of combinations for the threesome, but there's only one way to get a foursome, and that is to romance Leliana, but hardening her personality, so very specific choices in her companion quests. And then you also have to bring Leliana and Zevran to meet Isabella at the Black Pearl. So that would mean the foursome is you, Isabella, Leliana, and Zevran. As a bonus, if you bring Ogren as well, he will faint from excitement because he wants to watch. Which I just think is absolutely hilarious. Couple other things in Denerim. When you're walking through the market, there is a dwarf that just yells out, "Fine dwarven crafts direct from Orzammar." And it's my absolute favorite thing. I have a mug that says it. It's great. Valid, Ogren. So valid. And then the last thing, in the market in Denerim, there is a quest line called Crime Wave. And the specific person that gives you the quest just basically gives you missions to go pickpocket like nobles and commit random burglaries. And it's not easy, but it's a fun quest. And from there, once we've completed all of the treaty missions with the elves, the mages / Templars, and the dwarves, once that happens, we can go and hold the lands meet. I'm gonna pass it off to you, Cindy.
All right. So Landsmeet is kind of where a lot of the stuff has been leading to. Okay. Yeah. Let me get to where I was. Okay. They're trying to vie for power because obviously the king is dead. All this is happening. You are after you save Arl Eamon, he proposes that he wants Loghain removed from power because Loghain is Loghain.
And he just kind of like took over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole mission to rescue Queen Honora, which was King Kaelin's wife,
and Loghain's daughter,
from the from Arl Howe. They will also brains all over the place. Honora will also want you to kind of like investigate what's going on at the alienage. There's some not so fun stuff happening down there. That's when they find out that slavers are kidnapping elves that they are claiming are sick and just selling them off into slavery. Like, not fun things happen to the alienage.
Yeah.
They are essentially, like, when it comes to like any place, you have like the rich people, the middle class, the poor, the slums, and then like 2 more stages, and then the alienage.
Yeah, basically.
They are seen as very bottom of the barrel people. After you kind of help with all of that, the lands meet actually ends up being held at the Royal Palace. The way the lands meet works is as you made certain choices kind of throughout the game, or you helped certain people, they have like points, quote unquote, that can be kind of put towards where you want them.
And that's just based off of the quests you do throughout the game, side quests as well.
Yes.
Like if you help certain people, they'll say, "Yeah, we'll vouch for you" instead of Loghain.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of you're trying to get more people to vouch for you than they do against Loghain. No matter whether you win or not, you will always duel Loghain. After he surrenders, assuming you win, because if you don't win, you just kind of lose.
Yeah.
There's a handful of choices you can have. You can make Alistair duel him, and that is because of some story stuff we found out about Alistair. Alistair, at this point, we kind of find out he has a semi-legitimate claim to the throne.
Yep.
You find out that he's like actually like of royal blood, but like
which we can get into more in a minute. But yeah,
we're about to get into all of that here in a moment.
Yeah.
But that's why you can choose Alistair to duel him. It's not just you just being petty and like, fight my friend now.
Yeah.
You can have your player character choose to make him go through the joining to become a Grey Warden. Alistair does not like this.
No.
He will leave the party. Or you can recruit him, but that requires again some like specific things. A lot of this ends in just you're essentially choosing who's going to take over after Loghain, which
Yeah.
can either be you could either keep Loghain on the throne, you can put Alistair on the throne, you can put Queen Honora back on the throne, you can put Honora and Alistair on the throne, you can put you and there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different endings about who you want to put on the throne.
Right. Although I don't think Loghain can stay on the throne.
Can you not? Am I tripping?
No. I don't think
Ignore
so.
that part. I lied to your face. Ignore that part. It has been a long time since I've played.
That's okay. But yeah, regardless, it's all dependent on who you choose to put on the throne, but also who marries who on the throne, and that all determines Loghain's outcome. But with that, hello Q. Hope you're doing well. We're gonna get into some just extra companion information. This will be things about their romances, just other details, some funny quotes I compiled from each companion. So we'll start with Alistair because we just talked about him a bit. I mentioned before, he's very much a golden retriever. Always wants to do the right thing. He doesn't like it if you're trying to be like sneaky or sly or like lying your way through things. His mother is an elven mage, Fiona. I mentioned before, she's in the book The Calling, and then she comes back later on in Dragon Age Inquisition. And his father is, drumroll, King Kalen. So he is, no, not Kalen. I'm sorry. I wrote Kalen. His father is Merrick. Kalen is his half-brother. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
It's fine. I'm just gonna fix that in my Google Doc.
Again, we totally had this so prepared like 3 weeks ago.
Clearly. Did not work till 2 a.m. last night. Yeah, no, Alistair does get really upset if you threaten the church mother, the chantry mother. I've definitely done that before too. But yeah, so in addition to his mother being an elf and his father being the former King Kalen, or Merrick, I did it again.
Nice.
He has a half-sister named Goldana in Denerim. Part of his companion quest is you can go meet her. He has the option to become king, potentially marrying his half-brother's wife, because Honora was married to Kalen. Then you can have Alistair marry Honora instead.
His former sister-in-law.
Yeah, which is gross. And then just some funny quotes. Yes, swooping is bad. And have you ever licked a lamppost in winter? And what? Lead? Me? No leading. Bad things happen when I lead. We get lost, people die, and the next thing you know, I'm stranded somewhere without any pants.
Like me when I drink.
So Alistair is all of us, really. In terms of his romance, he is a romanceable companion. He is straight, unfortunately. If you play a female human warden, you have the option to marry him and become queen instead of Honora. He is also available for the threesome with Isabella, if you want that. I'll let you take Morrigan.
Okay, so yeah, Morgan. Again, everyone loves Morgan. She grew up with Flemeth, her mother, in the Korkari wilds. As you kind of do her companion quest, she is very blunt. If she wants you to know something, she'll say it. If you're doing something dumb, she'll let you know. Which is the complete opposite of her mother from the few interactions we have with her, who likes to kind of like talk around things.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you're doing Morgan's companion quest, you can find out that Flemeth is not the greatest mom.
Nope. Pretty
Flemeth,
bad, Mom.
Yes. As you get towards the ending of her quests, you find out that Flemeth is essentially using Morgan as like a vessel of sorts. Because her whole cycle is she has a daughter, she raises them, and then she takes over their body, a whole like eternal youth weird type of deal.
Yep.
But then Morrigan finds out about this because of a grimoire you can find in the Circle missions.
Yes. The Black Grimoire.
And yes, the Black Grimoire. And this all leads to you can bring Morgan with you to confront Flemeth, and this is where you have one of the few dragon fights, because Flemeth just turns into a
Hey.
dragon and you fight her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She very much despises Circle mages, because in her mind, it's just mages who just like, I don't want to be free. The mages that have given up freedom, she doesn't like them. So a lot of the time, if you're doing something that supports the Circle of Magi, she typically disapproves.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what? I will let you do the Morgan quotes, because
We only have one. Oh no, we actually have a few. Okay,
we have,
hold on.
yeah.
Never mind. I misread it. Okay. So the first one regarding Alistair. How odd. We now have a dog, and Alistair is still the dumbest one in the party. She loves to get a dig in on Alistair.
Oh yeah, she has very much like older sister energy with
Oh, yeah.
Alistair. Really
Yeah.
likes to kind of dig into him.
Enslow, I've only fought Flemeth once. Every other time I compromise. Same, partly because the fight with Flemeth is really hard.
Yeah, especially if you do it like right after finding the grimoire and you're not
Yeah.
prepared for the fight.
Mm-hmm. It's rough. Now, my favorite quote is a conversation between Leliana and Morrigan. So, Leliana, you're very beautiful, Morrigan. Morrigan says, tell me something I do not know. Leliana, but you always dress in such rags. It suits you, I suppose. A little tear here, a little rip there to show some skin. I understand. Morrigan, you understand I lived in a forest, I hope. Liliana, maybe we could get you in a nice dress one day. Silk. No, maybe velvet. Velvet is heavier, better to guard against the cold in Ferelden. Dark red velvet, yes, with gold embroidery. It should be cut low in the front, of course. We don't want to hide your features. Morrigan, stop looking at my breasts like that. 'Tis most disturbing. Liliana, you don't think so? And if it's cut low in the front, we must put your hair up to show off that lovely neck. Morgan, you are insane. I would sooner let Alistair dress me. And Liliana says, it'll be fun, I promise. We'll get some shoes, too. Ah, shoes. We could go shopping together. Best conversation between them. And you can continue.
So her romance, again, much to the disdain of specifically musical here and a lot of other people,
A lot of other
Morgan
people,
is
not just me.
They is a straight romance.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you kind of have to like choose your words carefully, because there's a lot of dialogue options that can get disapproval, because she's kind of easily offended, most because just differing worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
She often, every time you try to flirt with her, do something nice, she either hits you with some sarcasm or a joke. She likes to be independent. That's like her whole like big thing. It also leans into her not liking circle mages because they're not independent.
Mm-hmm.
As you slowly whittle down her walls, you'll kind of see a different side of Morrigan. Although she still always has that sarcastic, kind of blunt side to her, she gets a little flirty, and then she gets a little more feminine and girly. Specifically in a quest where you can hand her a mirror, a little hand mirror, as a present.
It's so cute.
And then she explains how like she had one when she was younger because she stole it from some people and she was like super liked it, and then her mother got mad at her because stealing can bring Templars to them, and so she broke the mirror in front of Morrigan, and that's always kind of stuck with her.
Yeah.
But like deep down, it's one of those things. Morrigan never had a proper childhood, so like there are little things that kind of bring out that girlishness that Morrigan has, but ultimately she is still a very strong, very independent woman. She just kind of had a bit of a rough past.
Yep. Gosh, gotta love Morgan.
We love Morgan.
Real quick about Barkspawn. We got to see Barkspawn earlier. Again, Barkspawn is just an affectionate community name for the dog. Dog is the default name, like literally just dog. In another DLC, the Darkspawn Chronicles, Dog bonds with Alistair, and he names the Mabare Barkspawn. That's where the name originally comes from, and it becomes kind of a fan favorite. Everyone affectionately calls the dog Barkspawn. And he is just purely the goodest of dogs. He's just great.
Yeah. He just wants to like just hang out with you and rip off Darkspawn heads. But like we love him for it.
Liliana. Do you want me to take her?
Yeah, you can have Liliana.
Okay. So she is an Orlesian bard. She actually is originally from Ferelden, but was raised in Orlais. Became a lay sister of the Lothering Chantry. She loves shoes. Absolutely loves shoes. She, you can give her a pet nug, and she'll name it Schmooples, which starts just her obsession with nugs that lasts through all the games. A couple of fun quotes. Look at what that woman's wearing. Is she drunk, or does she just have bad taste? Another one. Do you think they sell silk ribbons at that store? I've been meaning to spruce up my boots for the longest time. And, ooh, glass slippers. In terms of her romance, she loves shoes. She really loves shoes. In terms of romance, she's bisexual. She can be romanced by either male or female wardens. She is available for the threesome/foursome in the Black Pearl with Isabella. And she is actually statistically the most commonly picked romance in Origins, which the fact that she is a bisexual romance makes sense because anybody can choose her then. But yeah, she's one of my favorites as well. So I'll let you take Sten.
All right. Sten. We love Sten. Biggest guy. He's a warrior of the Barasad, which is a kind of a warrior group of the Kunari. As you do stuff with Sten, you eventually find out that he is a rather unique Kunari because almost all other Kunari have horns. We don't see any examples of this in Origins. I think Sten is the only Kunari we meet in Origins. But he gives us a little insight here and there to what the Kun is and who Kunari are, and they usually have nice fancy horns.
Mm-hmm.
He personally, although he doesn't really impose it upon you a lot, tells you a lot of the Kun and thinks that kind of living outside of the Kun is really cruel.
Yeah.
You can find out that the reason he was locked in the cage in the beginning was because he was just looking for his lost sword. He really likes his sword. You can track it down and return it to him.
Mm-hmm. And that was his sword that he lost when he committed the crime of slaughtering that family, I believe.
And then here's a handful of quotes by him. I like these. These are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
This is where you learn Sten has a bit of a sweet tooth. He goes, "Where's the cake? I was told there would be cake. The cake is a lie," which, if you don't know, is a Portal reference.
It's a great reference.
And then another interaction is between the Warden and Sten. The Warden, is there anything you like about Ferelden? Sten, there is interesting food here. You have a thing, it doesn't have a word in the Kunari tongue. Little baked things like bread, but sweet and crumbly. The Warden, cookies? Sten, yes, we have no such thing in our land. This should be remedied.
Oh, poor Sten. It's such a crime that they don't have cookies.
Yeah, so as we find out, Sten has a bit of a sweet tooth now because of Ferelden. He really likes cake and he really likes cookies now. Which, look at him. How could you not like a little bit of extra food when you're that big?
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, we're back to Sandal and Bodan. Literally the only thing I wrote for them miscellaneous wise was Sandal always says enchantment, and it's the cutest thing. It's the cutest thing. All right, then we got Zevran again. He's constantly hunted down by the Antivan Crows because he abandoned the contract that was put on the Warden's life. By not fulfilling that contract, he kind of betrayed the Crows. So part of his quest is ultimately fixing that, essentially, taking down the Crows that are after him. But just a couple quotes. Let's see. When was the last time I slipped my hand into some dark hole? I remember. Long story, that. And then we all do our share of murdering around here, don't we? So he's an interesting man. He is the other bisexual romance option, which we love. He blatantly flirts with the PC, the warden, as well as other companions. He will just flirt with anyone and everyone.
I mean, look at him.
Yeah, he is a flirt. Now, the sad thing about Zevran makes me really sad. If the warden makes the ultimate sacrifice, and this is when you romance him, if the warden makes the ultimate sacrifice at the end of the game, which you'll learn what that is, but if the warden dies, the epilogue notes that Zevran, despite frequent offers of bed partners, never loved again. The warden had that much of an effect on Zevran that he could never love anyone else again. And it's so sad. It's so sad. All right. Oghren.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'll take care of Oghren.
Yeah, of course you will.
Right. So Oghren, as you find out, Oghren, he's not just like a drunk. He is considered one of the best warriors in Orzammar.
Yeah.
But him being drunk is a bit of a plus in my opinion. But a lot of the drinking is recent because his wife Branka was declared a living paragon and she disappeared, and he doesn't quite know what to do with that. He's a very stressed individual, so he relies on a lot of drink. And then he has some very interesting quotes. Lord, things are breaking. Okay. So, to begin, misery, vomit, and malt liquor. Reminds me of home. Love that one. Next one, shave my back and call me an elf. And then, probably one of my favorite ones is I've tried 27 different types of ale and learned I'm just the right height to give a human girl a good time. That doesn't make me a good man. Which, I'm sure you can put two and two together. He's a dwarf. He's very short.
Yeah. Oh, Oghren. We love him.
Yeah. I'll let you take care of... I'll let you have Wynn and Shale, because I don't know much about Shale anyways.
That's fine. All right. So, again, Wynn, we talked about before, you can find her in the circle. But before that, you actually can meet her at Ostagar at the beginning of the game. So she's with the wardens and then goes back to the circle tower after the fact. But she often nags Alistair like a mother figure and tells him she occasionally sought the company of other mages while in the tower, and she even bore a son out of wedlock with a Templar in the circle. Shocker. For someone who seems to be so matronly and pure, she's really not. Now, you also learn she technically died in the circle when everything kind of went down, but a spirit saved her and is kind of keeping her on life support, essentially. So she's living on borrowed time. That you learn more about that in one of the books, which that'll be discussion for later this week. But it's very fascinating. A couple quotes. She says to Alistair, if Alistair is romancing the warden, now that you're in an intimate relationship, I think maybe I should tell you where babies come from. Like Alistair wouldn't know. And then, well, we can't all be quick wits mixed smarty pants, now can we? Apparently you have a monopoly on cleverness. She's wonderful. And Shale. She was created in minus 255 ancient, so well over 1,000 years ago. She was created by Paragon Carradine to defend against the First Blight. We really don't have a lot more information about her, but a couple quotes from her. I wonder what it is like to float or drown. She has a lot of dark humor.
Yeah.
Then, now let us crush something soft and watch it fountain blood. That is a girlish thing to want to do, yes? She doesn't really remember much of her past life, so she just kind of makes assumptions. And while conversing with Sten about the Qun, does sound like a delightful place where it comes from. Mages on leashes, what will they think of next? Gotta love Shale. All right. We are gonna pop an ad off real quick here before we get into the final stages of Origins. And we shall be back. We're gonna maybe start talking about Denerim, but it's gonna be like some brief stuff. Don't worry. All right. Ad is running, or will run in just a second. There we go. Before we get into the details of the Battle of Denerim, I'm just wondering if like people in chat want to add to the conversation at all, because like we're talking and talking and talking. So
Yeah,
this is meant to be conversational. If y'all want to add anything, if you feel like we've missed stuff, we would love it if people would comment.
Yes, please correct us.
Yeah, because I feel like I definitely probably missed stuff.
Yeah, because Lord knows we were distracted enough making all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is.
I mean, if nobody has thoughts or wants to add stuff, that's fine. We can just jump into the battle for Denerim.
Yeah.
I'll let you get started, but let's wait on the Archdemon stuff till the ad ends, which we've got another 55 seconds.
Okay. Wait, where's the Archdemon stuff?
Oh,
that's the third thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. We got it's down to 45 seconds left.
Okay. So you want me to go ahead and just start? Or do you want to try to wait
Yeah,
for
go ahead.
Okay. So after everything else is done, all of the treaties are done with, after the Landsmeet is settled and you find out who's going to be the next ruler, you get a companion quests out of the way, you return to Redcliffe, and it is overrun again, because why wouldn't it be? As you get there, you have to destroy a bunch of the Darkspawn to get past the siege. Once you get there, you talk to Arl Eamon, and he will mention that a big horde of Darkspawn are headed towards Denerim.
Welcome back from the ads, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Once you find out about the horde and you're done talking to Arl Eamon, you can go speak to another warden, Warden Riordan. I don't like saying that. And
say that 5 times fast.
He will explain to you how archdemons are actually die, because it's never explained to you, because you and both Alistair are kind of fresh recruits.
Yeah.
So what happens whenever you kill an archdemon? What will happen is, the archdemon's soul will immediately inhabit the nearest tainted thing, which is normally a darkspawn, and then that darkspawn will return into the archdemon.
Yeah.
So as long as there are darkspawn, there will be infinite archdemons if you kill it.
Yes.
But since the wardens go through the ritual, the wardens also carry the taint with them. So if a warden were to kill the archdemon, the archdemon soul cannot be inside of you at the same time. The two souls don't mix, they don't like each other, so both of them are destroyed, which essentially kills both the warden that got the final blow and the archdemon. That's the only way, at least that the quote-unquote only way to kill an archdemon is to make sure a warden is the closest thing whenever an archdemon dies.
Yeah.
and that will always kill. Uh, After you do all this, Morgan will want to talk to you, and she will propose a new way about how you can kill an archdemon and it doesn't kill the warden.
Yeah.
You can, the way this works is it has to be one of 3 people. Well, firstly, it has to be a warden that she does because she calls it a ritual of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And it can only be done with either the player character if they are a male, Alistair, which he will not be happy about it,
Yeah.
or Logain if you decide to conscript him into a Grey Warden and he does the joining.
Yeah.
All this essentially means is she just wants to bear a child with the Grey Warden so that when the archdemon dies, it inhabits the child instead.
Mm-hmm.
So that way the warden doesn't die, and then the kid will be born quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
She doesn't explain a whole lot into this. She's just like, I have to conceive a child, you kill it, it goes into the child, and then just, yada yada yada.
Right. Which it brings up a lot of questions about consent. Because you as the warden can just dictate, yep, you're sleeping with Morrigan.
Yeah.
And
under the guise of this has to be done if you
if we don't want to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little rough.
I'm sure Morgan is also not pleased to sleep with Alistair, but
or Logain, honestly.
Or Logain. And then after you're doing all that talking, the next day is when the main battle takes place. You'll head to Fort Drakon, where you try to lure the archdemon, and then this is where a lot of your other choices throughout the game kind of have an effect, because depending on who you sided with, what quests you did, these determine the different allies you have during the big final fight.
Yeah.
Like in the Dwarven part, if you decided to support Bronca and keep the anvil active, you will have golems. If the Templars and the mages, if you side with the Templars, you get Templars in the final fight.
And then werewolves versus elves, yeah.
Yeah.
See, you'll have, and then in addition to that, you get the Redcliffe army too.
Yeah.
So you can have up to 4 ally factions fighting with you.
Mm-hmm. As you're going through all of this, you're fighting tons and tons of darkspawn. There's death everywhere. Stuff's on fire. It's all looking very gloomy. You eventually make it to the top, one of the rooftops of Fort Drakon, and you fight the archdemon, which you learn the name Erthimiel. Which Erthimiel comes up again later, but I'll hold on to that. And essentially, this is just another really big fight. It's a fairly difficult fight, if I'm being honest. If you're not prepared for it. It's a really fun fight, though, because it is a dragon in the Dragon Age game.
Woo! Yes, Becca, there are dragons in Dragon Age. I know Becca's here lurking.
And this fight ends in one of 2 ways, and each way has multiple endings. So if you did not do the dark ritual with Morrigan, either the player character, Alistair, or Logain, depending on who you choose to make the final blow, will die. Or if you choose to do the dark ritual with Morrigan, the player character will always make the final blow, and the archdemon's soul will instead transfer to Morrigan's future baby.
Yes. And to clarify, too, with that ritual, the reason it works and the baby doesn't die is because the baby was literally just conceived the night before, and the soul really hasn't formed yet.
Yes.
So, and the baby is too small, too young, really not really a baby yet, just like a semblance of a fetus.
Yes. And
so there's nothing for the soul to latch on to.
It's a Grey Warden baby.
Yes. Still does have the taint.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so when you defeat the archdemon and Yeah, you're a hero.
Yeah, your hero. Well, yeah, it's just again as you play it, either you die, Loghain dies, Alistair dies, or no one dies.
Yeah.
It's always a warden that dies, or no one dies.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I can
if you want to,
cover
I can
the
let
epilogue.
you do the epilogue. Yeah, I'll let you do that.
Yeah. All right. So once you defeated the archdemon, Alistair and or Honora are crowned in a coronation scene. Obviously, there's always the option for your warden to be married to Alistair and crowned as well. Your warden is then named the Hero of Ferelden. That is your official title. So you're a Grey Warden by faction, but you are also known as the Hero of Ferelden. If you died in the battle with the archdemon, a funeral scene will play. Alistair or Nora will deliver a eulogy. You are buried in a tomb next to Garahel, who is known as the hero of the previous Blight. I believe a couple hundred years prior. And then I have a lot of details about this that we don't need to go through actually. But based on whatever your origin is, someone from your past comes forward to speak, offer a speech, and then land or honor or riches are restored to your family or the people you came from. Wrongs are righted, etc. If you live, or after the funeral cutscene, either way, there's a post-coronation ceremony where Alistair or Nora will give a speech. If you're alive, you're offered a boon from the ruler and asked about your future plans. Depending on what future plans you indicate, this can affect some post-game DLC. And then if you're alive, you can speak with your companions and some NPCs. Kind of get like a nice little wrap-up done with all of your companions. And then the scene closes with you stepping out onto a balcony to greet all of your adoring fans outside. And then the game closes with some epilogue slides that show what happened in the aftermath of the fight with the archdemon. It'll cover things like who the ruler is, what their status is, what their stance is, what the work that they do. The outcome of the Urn of Sacred Ashes is one. Whether Jenna TV is alive, whether you made a deal with Colgrim, someone you encounter when you're reaching the Urn of Sacred Ashes. The state of the Circle Tower, and based on whether you sided with the Templars or Mages. The alienage, fun fact with the alienage, if you were a city elf, the alienage can actually receive representation in the government in Denerim, which is really cool. And slave trade can be abolished, or sometimes it's still active. Redcliffe can either be fully abandoned or can be thriving. Connor, can either have been killed or is still alive after dealing with the Desire Demon. You see the aftermath of the Dalish encampment and the werewolves, and then Orzammar, especially what happens with Orzammar based on who you put on the throne, as well as Dagna, a very lovely elf who insists on studying magic, wants to go to the Circle Tower. I'm sorry, elf, dwarf. Words are really hard tonight. Dagna, she's the dwarf you encounter who wants to go to the Circle Tower. Dwarves can't study magic, but she wants to learn enchanting and all that stuff. So she's part of those slides too. And then you learn about the whereabouts of all the companions and their relationship with the warden. And that's the close of the game. We're going to get into the DLC now. My recommendation is we breeze through it a little bit more.
I'm gonna try to just kind of fly through this as fast as I can.
Yeah. Also, Slow, thank you for that save game. I don't have anything to save, so I am gonna refund that to you. But thank you. I'm hitting the save button, a la Becca. Boop. All right. So, Awakening.
With the Awakening DLC, it is, in terms of the game, it is a giant DLC that takes place after Origins. And then for sanity's sake, whenever you start this, there are 2 ways to start it. You can either import your Origins character, and then you will play as, the Warden Commander in Hero for Elden. Or if you don't import, you will play as a random, like, Orlesian Grey Warden. But for the sake of sanity, all of this is in the point of view of the Grey Warden Commander.
Yeah.
And Hero for Elden.
Yeah.
And then, so all of this, backstory, this Awakening DLC takes place, 6 months after Origins.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, normally after the Archdemon is defeated, all of the Darkspawn kind of scatter off to the deep roads, but they weren't. There were still a lot of Darkspawn on the surface. People don't know what was happening, and so the Grey Warden Commander is kind of on his way to investigate things.
Yeah.
They are sent to Vigil's Keep, which is a kind of fort, and they are accompanied by another Warden recruit. They haven't gone through the joining yet, named Myri, and they find out the Keep is under attack. As they are fighting through the Keep, trying to take it back, we meet Ogren again.
Mm-hmm.
He is there
And
fighting
Anders.
a bunch of Darkspawn. And Anders, yes. You meet Anders first, and then he is like surrounded by a bunch of dead things, and that's when he says, "I didn't do it." And then Ogren.
Mm-hmm.
You meet them both again. They join you up with you. Yada yada yada. You find a dying warden who then tells you there are talking Darkspawn, which, if you didn't know, up until now, none of the Darkspawn talk. They've all been very angry.
They're not
very
really
worried.
sentient. They're more like zombies.
Yes. He said there are talking Darkspawn, and they're like, that's not good. So as you're fighting through, you make it to the roof. You encounter one of these talking Darkspawn named the Withered. Fight breaks out. It ends in you defeating him. After that, both all Ogren, Anders, and Myri all have to undertake the Grey Warden ritual. Myri dies because she does not make it, but luckily Ogren and Anders live. Which, fun little thing, Ogren, most people pass out after drinking the Darkspawn blood. Ogren just stood there. He didn't pass out. He was
Doesn't
just
he
like
like
that
burp or
tastes kinda
something?
good. Yeah, his eyes roll back, he burps, and that's it. He doesn't pass out.
What a drunk.
Yes. So after all of this, you are then tasked to talk to a bunch of big important people in Vigil's Keep named Captain Garavel, Mistress Woolsey, and Seneschal Varel. They kind of give you hints on where you should go so that you can learn to like deal with what's happening. As you are still in Vigil's Keep, you can learn about a specific character called Nathaniel Howe. He is related to Arl Rendon Howe from the base game, the people that betrayed the Kuzlins.
And kidnapped Anora.
Yes, and kidnapped Anora. You can miss him entirely. He isn't necessarily a main character, but people like him anyways. He is in the dungeon. You can choose to conscript him or like set him free, whatever. Most people end up conscripting him. He survives and he becomes your companion throughout the rest of the game, offering input here and there. You can eventually reunite him with his sister, but then it's kind of bittersweet because those are the last 2 Hows alive because everyone else is dead.
Yep.
So as we go through this, each main section of Awakening is individualized into different missions. This one's called the Righteous Path. This is where the Warden finds out that there are merchants being attacked along a path called the Pilgrim's Path, and it's like stifling supplies coming in, so the Warden has to go investigate. They arrive at a place called Winding Woods. You find a bunch of a bandit running from an elf named Valana. They try to get the Warden to leave. They don't. As you go deeper, you'll find more people dying, and they explain that Valana thinks that humans are the reason that her sister had disappeared or died, and she doesn't know that it's the Darkspawn that are at fault. But as you keep exploring, you can find her and you can convince her that it's the humans' fault, and you'll help her find out who killed her sister, and then she'll kind of join up with you throughout the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
After searching the woods some more, you come across the Silverite mine, and whenever you go inside of it, you are a trap is sprung upon you by a very interesting individual called the Architect.
Gosh, the architect is so cool.
Yeah, he's a very interesting individual. You don't know much about him, but he shows up and he puts everyone to sleep. And so then later you wake up in a prison, you have nothing on you. Then you meet Valana's sister, Sarani. Uh, at this point, she's not doing too great. She
No.
looks like a ghoul,
Mm-hmm.
and then she gives you a key to escape because she still has some semblance of her former self, and she wants to help y'all escape. Uh, Something that I remember is as you explore all of this, you can kind of find out some more about the Architect. The Architect is a darkspawn, but he's free, quote unquote. He doesn't hear. So all other darkspawn are all controlled by the Archdemon in a kind of hive mind esque type of way.
Mm-hmm.
He has broken free of that.
Yeah.
Other than that, you don't. His appearance isn't ever really talked about. At least not for now. I'll explain more.
Yeah.
Later.
And I will add too that outside of the game, outside of this DLC, there's not much about the Architect except that you do learn more about him in the book The Calling. So highly recommend if you're interested.
Which the Calling, if we haven't explained it, the Calling is typically a Grey Warden thing. Once Grey Wardens are Grey Wardens for a long time, the taint starts to kind of get to them, and they essentially start to almost succumb to the same hive mind that all Darkspawn have. So whenever a Warden starts to get the Calling, they are sent to the Deep Roads like the Legion of the Dead, and they just fight till they die.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate fate of any Grey Warden, is they either die in combat or they go to the Deep Roads and die.
Yep.
But as you go through this is you find out where the Architect kind of experiments on people. He has a few more people that are kind of like Sarani. You get into a fight with them. You fight 2 dragon thralls, so more dragons, hooray.
Woo!
You then notice he has another person in the Utha, but they all end up escaping, and then afterwards Valana can join you officially as part of the Wardens.
Mm-hmm.
After this, because that is the end of this section of the Righteous Path, you find out who the Architect is. You get some background knowledge. After that is Last of the Legion. More investigating. They found a hole that leads to the Deep Roads, and Darkspawn are kind of coming out of it, so the Warden has to show up to kind of find out what's going on. You can then find a Legionnaire scout named Sigrun. You can recruit her to help you adventure deeper into the Deep Roads. As you go further, you find another member of the Legion of the Dead who warns you that there are broodmothers inside the tunnels, and broodmothers are what happened. Broodmothers in general are Darkspawn aren't just a person doesn't turn into a Darkspawn. Darkspawn are born, but they are born from women of each race that are horribly tainted, and then their only job is to just give birth to Darkspawn.
Ugh. I purposely did not put a picture of a broodmother in this because they're disgusting.
Yes, they're very gross looking. It's like if you gave an old pile of pudding like 4 boobs. That's what it looks like. It's not the prettiest sight.
That's a great description, actually.
Specifically the Dwarven broodmothers, because we haven't seen Elven or Kunari broodmothers.
Slow!
And then the way they're made is also really messed up because they're not just, again, afflicted with regular blight. They have to go through an unbelievable amount of torture to then become a broodmother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he says that there are a bunch of broodmothers in this tunnel. So you hear this information, you then have to keep fighting through the dark roads. You find some dwarven ghosts. You find out a little bit of the lore about where you are. You then meet another talking darkspawn called the Lost, and he has a big giant pet infernal golem. You have to fight them both. You win, and then you are near the pit where there are 3 broodmothers in a pit. you're like, I can't jump down there and fight all of those, so you drop a giant container of lyrium on top of all of them, and it destroys all three of them at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you escape the deep roads, having solved that. That lessens the amount of darkspawn you have to fight. And then Sigrun can then now join up with you as part of the group as you continue on.
And just a quick pause there. Max Gamer, no worries. It's totally fine if you're late. I don't care. You don't have to be here by a certain time. But I appreciate you being here. In terms of how many races are there are 4 races known in the world of Dragon Age. You've got humans, elves, dwarves, and Kunari. Kunari are like giant humans with horns. They're pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. And if you have any questions, throw them at us.
Yes, please throw questions into the chat. And if there's stuff that you want to go back and watch, this will be available to watch after stream as a VOD. You can always go back through it.
Yes. And after all the deep road stuff is done, you then start the next mission, Shadows of the Black Marsh. This is where you find out that there is another warden named Kristoff who was originally investigating why the Darkspawn weren't going away. And then you find out he was missing from Vigil's Keep during the main attack, and it is your job to then try and find him.
Mm-hmm.
As you go through Amaranthine, which is, I guess we forgot to mention, Amaranthine is a city that is near to Vigil's Keep.
Yes.
And you are there to both try to defend it, but also you use it for a lot of your investigations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big hub, has merchants and people and some side quests there. You go to Amaranthine, you talk to, I think it's like a tavern keep and some other people, and then you find out that he goes to Black Marsh as part of his investigation. Whenever you get to Black Marsh, the warden senses some darkspawn, investigates a little bit, which then eventually leads to another talking darkspawn, the first to spring a trap, and they use an orb on you to send you into the Fade.
Yay, so more adventures in the Fade.
Shenanigans. The first, surprisingly, he was not expecting this, was also brought into the Fade with you, but he eventually attacks you with darkspawn and retreats. You then have to kind of navigate your way through the Fade again, until you eventually find like a crypt of sorts where you see like a village inside the Fade, and you try to get into it. So you have to sneak through the crypt to get into the village.
Yep. All still stuck in the Fade.
Yes, this is all in the Fade. Once you get to the village, you meet the Spirit of Justice, who is trying to ask for help against the Baroness, who you find out she had played a big part in bringing the village into the Fade to begin with. And if you help him, he'll give you information on just what you need to know.
Yeah.
And then this is where some of this stuff splits off. Whenever you get to the estate, you can choose to talk with the Baroness normally. And then you can talk to her, and she explains that, yes, she is the reason that the village is in the Fade, but it's kind of a revenge thing because they had all, like, burned her alive in her own house.
Gross.
Or you can just bust into the Baroness's estate with all the villagers, and you essentially find out the same information. Depending on what you choose, whether you side with the Baroness or you side with Justice, the Darkspawn we were just talking about, the first, will always side with the other side. But even though all this back and forth, it all ultimately ends in the Baroness fighting with Justice, and then you fighting with the first. The Baroness, the first loses. The Baroness does some magic shenanigans to bring herself, the party, and accidentally Justice back to the real world. And then as you are back in the real world, you find out that Justice, being a spirit, it's hard to exist, so he had to possess the body of Kristoff, which is, at this point, several days old.
Yeah. And another quick pause. So sorry. Yes, Max, this is just for the first game tonight. On Thursday, we'll do Dragon Age 2, and then Saturday, we'll do Dragon Age Origins.
I could not imagine trying to do all 3 games.
Oh my god, we would literally be here for 10 hours if we were trying to do all 3 games.
Yeah, this is all just Origins stuff.
Yeah.
But
Justice and Kristoff.
Yeah, Justice inhabits Kristoff's body, kind of like a puppet, But then he helped you try to find the Baroness because the Baroness is also there. You go through the marsh. Side note, you can do some side quest here and you get to fight another dragon.
Whoa, another dragon in Dragon Age.
You can find her in front of the original estate of the village, and then she'll mention that she wants to rule the realm, and even if you sided with her in the Fade, she's too far gone. You have to fight her here, and then
Yeah.
she will turn into a nasty pride demon. You then go through a boss fight. After that, Justice will then join you permanently, and that's the end of the Black Marsh quest line. Then we get to a lot of the meteor parts. So that's all the stuff they needed to investigate done. Then there is the assault on Amaranthi.
Lots of fire.
Yes. After talking with Veril, you can meet. A meeting is held, and then a messenger shows up, says that Amaranthine is being attacked by Darkspawn. They need help, in which the Grey Warden commander then makes a small group of people to take with them to go there and defend it. Once they arrive, they are met with the messenger, which you find out is a talking Darkspawn sent by the architect, and he is warning you that the main enemy of all this, the Mother, used Amaranthine as a distraction and is actually attacking Vigil's Keep. And this is where a big split happens. You can either choose to stay and help Amaranthine and let Vigil's Keep kind of do the best it can, or you can willingly let Amaranthine burn to kill everything on the inside and go back and help Vigil's Keep. It's a very big split.
Yeah.
If you decide to stay, you fight through giant hordes of Darkspawn. You eventually encounter a Disciple General and a big ol' armored ogre. You have to defeat them. After you defeat them, Amaranthine is saved, and then afterwards the messenger is caught, and you could choose whether to release him, kill him, or imprison him. Those have different things that end up happening. But then this is where you discover where the Mother is located, and then you leave immediately from Amaranthine to go do that.
Yeah.
If you choose to leave Amaranthine to burn and choose Vigil's Keep, you then start the quest, the Siege of Vigil's Keep, which involves you returning back. You go to the throne room, and then now your job now is to protect the throne room, or protect the keep in general.
Mm-hmm.
While fighting, you meet another talking Darkspawn called the Herald. This one
so
is
many
sent by the Mother.
talkers.
There is so many those. He's upset that you showed up because he was not expecting you back. And then after you defend the keep and you defeat the Herald and all of his goons, you then track the retreating Darkspawn, and then you find out where the Mother's lair is.
Time for the gross one.
Yeah, so this starts the quest, the Depths of Depravity. This is where the Mother is located in a place called Dragonbone Wastes. You have the fight through the wastes, again, like Dragon Age Origins fashion, lots of Darkspawn, lots of gross stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You then eventually enter a place called Drake's Fall, which is an underground section of all of this that's happening. As you explore the underground, you bump into several towers that need crystals that can help you in the final fight. At this point, your commander will meet the architect again, and he will ask for your help against the Mother. And then up until this point, we still don't know a whole lot about what the architect is.
Yeah.
Or
really the Mother.
Yeah, or really the Mother. We just know the Mother is a thing. And at this point, you can either choose to let the architect help you, or you can choose to kill him on the spot. Either or.
Yeah.
And then once you get into the fight, there's a big place called the Nest, and that's where the Mother is. And
we're only going to show the Mother for like 10 seconds, so
yes,
just wait.
The Mother is a human brood mother that you find out the reason the way she is because the architect found a way to remove the calling from Darkspawn to make it to where they're not hive-minded.
Yeah.
They did that to the Mother, and what that sadly did is that it made her remember when the Darkspawn made her eat her family,
Ugh.
and that really broke her. And so her solution is, I need to reconnect myself with the archdemons just so I can forget how that all of that is happening.
Yep.
And then this is where you find a really interesting bit of knowledge that Architect is the accidental reason the Fifth Blight ever happened.
Yeah.
He tries to free one of the ancient gods from their fate of being an archdemon, messes up, and then just sends an archdemon. That's essentially what
Yeah.
that boils down to. But throughout this fight, you have to fight and kill the mother.
And we're gonna show the mother for like 5 seconds. It's only gonna be on the screen for a short moment.
Yeah, the mother.
Ugh.
Again, another very hard fight. I liked fighting the mother, but
Yeah.
you have to fight her, kill her, get it all done with, and then that is essentially the ending of that. You fight her, you become yet a hero, yet again.
What is that emote?
Huh? Oh. And then afterwards, some epilogue stuff does happen because you beat the mother, and she was the reason that, because the architect had found a way to use warden blood as a kind of backwards ritual in which kind of how wardens become wardens is this, they can make darkspawn drink
reverse
warden
joining.
blood. Yes. And then ended up doing that to mother, and then she went crazy, and they convinced all of the other disciples that he had made to join her instead. Back and forth, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And then after all of this, there's the epilogue, and I have some of the more of this loaded up on my phone because I was working on this earlier today, and I forgot to type this down.
You're fine.
Feel
free to like gloss over just like the little stuff too.
I'm not gonna get super into it.
Yeah, we got a couple more DLCs to go through.
Yes. So after all of this happens, you will return to whatever your ending was in Origins. If obviously you had to be alive, because if you weren't alive, you play as the Elysian Warden. And then as you go through this, you will continue what you were doing before for an unspecified amount of years, and then your warden just mysteriously disappears. No one knows. No one knows what happens. You just disappear. It's never explained a whole lot on what happens. And then some of your companions get their own endings. Anders, he'll serve as a Grey Warden for quite a few years afterwards. There's some stuff where he left the Wardens for a while, but then eventually came back. But he's always kind of been around. He made some friends while he was there.
Yeah.
Justice has kind of a sad ending. He will continue to serve Vigil's Keep and the Order for quite a few years afterwards, but Kristoff had a wife this whole time. And he tries to keep in contact with her, but after a while she voices concern that she doesn't like seeing her dead husband's body just kind of slump around.
So understandable.
Yes. So after she voices these opinions to Justice, he just leaves the body and the body slumps over.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens there. With Nathaniel, he will work to try to kind of clear his name. He ends up working with, I think he ends up working with like Fergus, one of the Kuzlins.
I think so.
He gives like all of his stuff to like his sister's son, Ogren. He stays with the Order. He continues to be a drunk. He tells big stories. Little side note: his drinking games prompt at least one recruit to declare that she'd rather reattempt the joining than to lift another mug.
I forgot about that. That's hilarious.
Sigrun, the Legionnaire scout, she just kind of hangs around. She keeps battling Darkspawn because she is a Legion of the Dead.
Yeah.
That's really just all that really happens with her.
Yeah.
Some of these companions don't really get a whole lot going on with them. Valana, I'm trying to think what she does. She doesn't return. Valana is Dalish, but she doesn't return to her clan. And I think, like a lot of the others, she just kind of sticks around, occasionally fighting Darkspawn, any stragglers that are left on the surface. Actually, no. She does eventually disappear to the deep roads, saying that her sister was calling her. So she eventually kind of like wanders off into the deep roads.
Okay. I did not remember
that. That's about it. That's about all the
right.
stuff that's in Awakening. You know, you save the world again, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into our final 3 DLCs. These are going to be nice and quick. We got Golems.
Handle these, I haven't played these DLCs in forever.
You're good. We got the Golems of Amgarak. I don't know how we say it. I'm going to say Amgarak. We have the Witch Hunt, and we have the Darkspawn Chronicles. So, Golems. The Warden is invited to... Actually, is it the Warden? Yes, it's the Warden, if the Warden's alive. You're invited to Orzammar by a gentleman named Jarek Dace, because an expedition into the Deep Roads is not returned. He's basically hired you to be like, hey, we need your help. The expedition was to go find Amgarak Tig, and some long lost research on golem construction. And he's particularly invested because his brother Brogan was part of this investigation. We learn that this search and rescue mission that Jarek is hiring for you is actually funded by House Tethras. I did not know that until I read and did some research for this, and I thought that was so cool. Yay, Varric. Obviously, it was Varric's father, I think, at the time before. Or, no, because his father was long dead, I think, by then. Never mind. So it was just someone in House Tethras. Ultimately, through this search to find the research and the expedition, they do find the research, but they destroy it, because they have to go and kill the Harvester. The Harvester is the sole reason the expedition never returned. It destroyed the expedition and destroyed the Tig, which is why the Tig was also considered lost. So, honestly, that's the basic gist of the entire Golems of Amgarak DLC. It's a pretty short one. So,
yeah.
Then we have Witch Hunt. I have this cursed image of Morrigan for us. And oh, sorry, I just clicked away for a second. Okay. This occurs after the events of Dragon Age Origins, as all of these do. But Morrigan disappeared after the end of the base game. This takes place 1 year after the Archdemon was killed. So Awakening was 6 months. This is 1 year. She happened to be spotted in the Korkari wilds. And so the PC, the Warden, travels to Flemeth's hut with our Barkspawn and meets Ariane, a Dalish warrior, who is trying to recover a book on Alluvians. Looking for this book in Flemeth's hut, and it's a book that Morrigan actually stole. It was stolen from the Circle by an apostate elf, before it ended up with Ariane's clan's keeper, and then Morrigan stole it from the keeper. So Ariane wants the Warden to take her to the Circle to search for more books on elven culture that could have been stolen from the clan, yada yada yada, and more history. And we encounter Sandal there. Sandal is the words are hard. Sandal happens to be at the Circle Tower, which is super cool. You find a lot of very informative books, but also some really humorous books in the Tower Library. You meet a mage named Finn, who actually happens to know what the word Alluvian means. For some reason, Arian's clan just doesn't know what an Alluvian is, because a lot of Elven culture and language is lost. But Finn directs them to a statue in the basement of the Circle Tower, and this statue talks to them. Tells the warden and the party that they need shards of a broken Alluvian and the lights of Arlathan from Cadhalash, which is a dwarven tag, to perform a scrying ritual to find other Alluvians. So the party goes to find the broken Alluvian from the Dalish origin, and retrieve Alluvian shards. Then they go to Kadash Tig, which is where Cadhalash is, to find the lights of Arlathan. This is all hidden by elven magic, so you use Finn and Narian, and they all work together to find these lights. Then you go back to the Dragonbone Wastes, which we mentioned in Awakening, to where the mother was. And this leads to where Morrigan eventually can be seen pacing in front of a activated Alluvian. So the warden can go talk to her. And if the dark ritual was completed in Origins, she'll mention she's since given birth to a boy and he's safe somewhere else. And she's now seeking out the Alluvians to find a place to raise her son in secret away from Flemeth, which we know later in Inquisition there's a lot more to that.
Yeah.
She also feels like going through these Alluvians, if she doesn't have a son, would just be a good way for her to find more time and more power to prepare for what's to come. We don't know what she's alluding to. It's just very ominous, foreboding. I feel like she's foreshadowing some events she knows is coming that we don't know about. Could be things in Kirkwall, could be things in Inquisition, could be things even further in the future, like Veilguard. Who knows? Yeah. She also at this point hints like, hey, I think Flemeth's not fully human. And she might be a danger to all of Thedas.
Yeah.
And this is also specifically mentioned if she survived the attack, or she mentions that that Flemeth survived the attack if Morgan and the warden chose to attack and kill her in Origins. She actually survived. She didn't actually die. And after all of this is all a conversation happening at the Alluvian. There are a couple things that can happen. Morgan and the warden can just say goodbye, and she walks away through the Alluvian. If the warden romanced Morgan, they can kiss, say goodbye, and she'll walk away through the Alluvian. Or they can walk through the Alluvian together. And lastly, if you are like angry at Morgan for leaving you and deceiving you, you can just stab her and she'll fall backwards to the Alluvian. Unknown whether she's alive or not. Kind of ambiguous. Of course, we learn later she's fine. But that's how Witch Hunt ends. And then lastly, we have a non-canon... Oh, I forgot to click through all of our images. That's Ariane. That's Finn. That's the Alluvian. The lights. Okay, Darkspawn Chronicles. This is a non-canon DLC. You play as a Hurlock in the Battle of Denerim. This is just the Battle of Denerim. And this is...
Wait, we might want to explain Hurlocks, Human Darkspawn, Ginlocks, Dwarven Darkspawn, Reeks, Elven Darkspawn, Ogre, or Kunari Darkspawn.
Thank you. Yes, great.
Okay.
So you play as a Hurlock. And this is an alternate history where your player character Warden died during the joining. And so Alistair led the party of adventurers. And so you as a Hurlock fight through the different areas of Denerim like you would as the Warden. And the Archdemon eventually calls to you and says, come to Fort Draken because Alistair's nearby. So you fight alongside the Archdemon. You kill Barkspawn. You kill Morrigan. You kill Leliana. It's painful. Then you eventually wound Alistair. It's really sad. And kill him by stabbing him through the back. And that is the end of that DLC.
Yep, ta-da!
It was very much a DLC I think that was intended to be like a test of mechanics in the game. It was all very hypothetical. And it was a fun, I think, thought experiment of what it's like to play the enemy side.
Yeah,
but
it was a very fun, like, what if, you know? It
Yeah.
really, it leans into, like, how important your character was to the story.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Because
not
if
the
you
hero
died,
of Ferelden
everything
by
goes wrong.
accident. It was just, you are truly a hero type
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, for sure. So, that is Origins.
Yeah.
Gosh, we did it. We kept it under 4 hours.
And, yeah, 3.5 hours. Woo!
I'm scared about Thursday and Saturday, but we got this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if other people in chat have thoughts about Origins
Anything.
specifically, or have things they'd like to add that we missed. If you think we missed something, please tell us. If you're like, hey,
I can guarantee we missed some things.
we definitely did. Just like the fact that like we didn't talk about the different types of Darkspawn and yada yada yada.
Yeah. But in our defense, we're trying to keep this not 8 hours long.
Yeah, because literally we
There's-
could have made this twice as long if we wanted to.
Yeah. And you know what? This serves as a nice spine. Yes, we left some stuff out. You should totally go and play the Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
Yourself, you know?
Or alternatively, go to my YouTube channel, watch my
That,
VODs.
yeah. Do both, actually.
Yeah. You haven't done Witch Hunt Slow? Yeah, go back and do it. It's worth it. It's totally worth it.
If anyone has any questions, whether you come up with them like later, just like put it in the Dragon Age section of the Discord.
Yes, definitely.
I'm sure one of us nerds will be there eventually to answer it.
Yeah.
Or if
for
we
sure.
just miss something, be like, hey, didn't this happen in this quest?
We're
We're not going to be hurt unless you like call us mean names, but like...
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that said, can everyone in chat give a big round of applause to my moderator, Cindy? Because they helped me so much with this project. We still have more to do for later this
We have
week.
a lot. Yeah, we gotta actually work on it.
But they've been such a big help. This would not have happened without them. So, just gonna throw that out there. So please send them all your love and thanks.
Wow.
Wow. Thanks.
Wow.
Well, Cindy, if that's it, I'm gonna let you go and feel free to do whatever
Yep.
you want, relax.
I'm
And I'm just
gonna
gonna
go.
finish out some stream things real quick.
All right. I hope you have the best rest of your night. I'm gonna go eat
Thanks.
food because I didn't.
Yeah. Go, please go have food.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, y'all. Now that they're gone. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you all so much for hanging out for this stream tonight, y'all. I really appreciate it. I was like so worried that like people wouldn't enjoy this or that like it wouldn't be good, whatever. But clearly y'all enjoyed this. Like you've been engaging and whatnot. But I still please would love it if y'all would share this with your friends. We've got another one coming up Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for Dragon Age 2. Soup time, yum. We've got another one coming up on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern with Dragon Age Inquisition. And then next Monday, a week from tonight, will be all music. I'll be playing the piano back there. I'll be singing. I'll be playing all of the... Oh my gosh, wig time. We're ending. I'm gonna refund that to you, Darkness Queen. We're ending stream. But I'll be playing and singing all the bard songs from Inquisition, and then we're playing Veilguard next week. I'm so excited. So I'm going to bump up our music real quick because it's really quiet. And throw in some links in chat for y'all. Oh, next stream? Okay, I'll save it then. There's the Discord. Go join. We have a channel dedicated to Dragon Age, so you can chat about all of this amongst yourselves if you want. YouTube. I've updated my YouTube links. So you have a link to my VODs channel, which is where you want to go if you want to watch Dragon Age content. And I have a second channel, technically. I've not been advertising it, but I have a second channel for edited content. So I'm starting to post stream-related TikToks that I've made. I'm putting it there. And then my bot figured it out for me. Throne wish list. If you want to buy me cool Dragon Age themed things, you can do that there. Maybe a little gift in honor of Veilguard next week. You know, whatever you feel. Anyways, with that, thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. Again, don't forget to share the little infographic below in the About section with all your friends. Let them know about the rest of these streams coming up in the next week. And I will see you all Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Be there or be square. I love you all. Good night.